Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the March 18th, 2025 Northfield Select Board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order. First up, Matt.
Good evening. I told you I was going to give you a break for a little while, but thanks for having me back. We're going to go as quick and effective because I know you have a busy night tonight, but I bring to you three providers that we'd like to have appointed to part-time per diem with EMS to help continue to shore up our ranks. Any particular order you want me to go in, or just roll right through?
Just roll.
Roll right through.
Okay.
All right, Courtney, come on up. Join me. I'd like to introduce you to Courtney Danielson, EMT, also in paramedic school, working through that right now. Reached out to me not too long ago, comes with some great references, and I'll let her do her quick little intro for you.
So, yes, hello, I'm Courtney Danielson. I've been in EMS going on 5 years now. Soon to be done with my paramedic school, work for private agencies and other municipalities. I'm excited to work for Northfield and just sort of hone my medic skills and serve the town and the community.
Great.
Any questions for her? Or?
Are you doing a paramedic at GCC?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
No.
Program.
No? Okay.
Awesome.
What grade and step? You know about that?
The per diem
We just up
9. Yeah, it's 9. I don't remember the wage that we set last meeting, but it's going to
Okay,
be
I'll leave that out.
Step
It'll be
one.
9-1, right?
9-1.
It'll be
9-1?
graded
Yep.
Per diem
And
grade.
Chief, could I ask, there are a certain number of per diems that you anticipate having. Where are we in that number without any of tonight's hires?
We are, as far as filling the per diems, getting close on the EMT side, probably 2 more paramedic positions. We also still have the full-time paramedic position that we need to go through an interview for, and that would fill us. So I would anticipate probably, another 2 or 3 potential EMT positions and 2 or 3 paramedic positions for part-time per diem at this point, since we have some that have sort of not been active with us and I think are probably not going to continue on with us going forward.
And these are EMTBs?
EMTs, yes.
EMTBs or?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. So, I say we hire Courtney Danielson as per diem EMT effective immediately to expire 12/31/2025, grade 9, step 1.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye. Excellent. Welcome to the team.
One
Yeah,
down.
welcome.
Congratulations. Mr. Matt McCarthy coming to us. I've worked with Matt for quite a few years, known him for a long time. Matt reached out as he's back in the area and said that he was looking for something to do for a little bit of per diem part-time work. He's always been a strong EMT provider, so I'd like to present him to you.
I'm Matthew McCarthy. I've been in fire-based EMS for a little over 6 years, fire service almost 12. I work in Weston, Mass, out east, but I'm living out in Greenfield. I'm actually back on in Gill Fire, and
Oh, great.
I'd like to come on and help out the community again.
How busy is Weston from a call standpoint?
We do about 28 to 3,000 calls a year.
Okay. So I thought.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm curious, so you live you live in Greenfield, but you work out there.
Yes.
So how many days a week do you anticipate working for Northfield?
I mean, I can go upwards to 4 to 5 days a week. I work 2 24-hour shifts, so I have a lot of free time to pick up shifts whenever.
Okay, thanks.
2 24 shifts in a row in Weston?
So it's 1 day on, 1 day off, 1 day on, and then 5 days off.
Oh, boy.
trying to help him fill his 5 days off.
Yeah.
Don't get too relaxed.
Okay, I'd say we hire Matthew McCarthy as per diem EMT, grade 9, step 1, effective immediately until 12/31/2025.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was painless, huh?
Welcome to the team.
Alicia?
And third tonight is Miss Alicia Toya. Alicia I have known probably longer than Matthew. Alicia is a paramedic here in the area, somebody that I've worked closely with, trained with, and when she approached me was probably one of my most exciting people to say, really, you want to come? She had talked about this when I was interviewing here, was one of the people I had said would consider coming to join us, and she is finally here with an application, so I present Miss Alicia to you all.
Hi.
Great.
My name's Alicia Toya. I have been in EMS for 12 years, a paramedic for 9 almost in April. I work full-time at South County EMS, and the reason I wanted to come up here is to work for Matt, and I'm born and raised in Greenfield, so working for my community is important to me. Working around Franklin County is important to me, and my father's a retired Greenfield firefighter, so EMS and public safety are very important to me. So,
Good.
I'd like to ask the same question. Based on your schedule, working full-time elsewhere, what's your anticipation of a schedule here?
so I work 16 and a 24, 40 hours at South County a week. I have a family at home and 2 kids, but I'm hoping to do 1 to 2 shifts a week is what I'm looking to fill.
That'll be super helpful. Yeah.
That it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just say that I looked over all the resumes
Yeah.
and the job applications, and everything looked really great for all 3 of you.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not wasting your time with questions.
Thank you.
It's all there. So I'd say we hire Alicia Toya as a per diem paramedic. Do you know the grade and step on that, or?
11-1.
Yeah, that's 2 up, yeah.
Yeah. Grade 11, step 1, effective immediately until 12/31/2025.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you all for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Oh,
Yay.
Before you go, so that is, we just had 2 new EMTBs put on call, and so that's filled our roster for EMTBs, correct? Didn't you just say?
I said we would probably look at 2 to 3 more, so we've got 2, depending on where matriculation happens with the roster, maybe 1 or 2 more EMTs potentially as part-time or per diem, but nothing in this round right now. This is gonna fill out, I think, from our list of applicants right now to date, what we're looking for.
Okay, I was just thinking for roster-wise, and still a couple more per diem paramedics.
Correct.
Were we to be so blessed to have them?
Yes, we're still hoping if you're out there watching.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question though on the roster from a conceptual standpoint, I guess, or practical standpoint. So oftentimes you have a roster and not everybody is doing a shift potentially, or based on their schedule, it might be like every other week or depending. So when you have a roster, if you cap off the number, really where you're capping it off is on the schedule. I'm not sure I'm asking it correctly. Do you know what I mean? From a financial standpoint.
To try and be succinct with it, there's 2 things. One, the financial question, per diem part-timers are less overall cost, if you will, because we're not paying benefits and everything else to them. But what we need to be able to balance is the on-call, the second truck, the sick, the vacation.
Right.
And so as much as we're moving to increase the number of full-timers to give us more consistency within our schedule, we still need to backfill with folks who are willing to work 8, 16, 24 hours a week. Even if it is on a rotating schedule, we put our schedule out 2 to 3 months at a time. So the goal is that when we put it out, rather than having to go to overtime for our full-time staff, our per diem and part-time staff will be able to fill that. Also, we're filling 136 hours based on our full-time expectation after July 1. If we get the budget passed and go to 3 full-time EMTs and 3 full-time paramedics, we've still got 100 and something hours we have to fill each week to meet our minimum staffing. So by getting 8 or 16 hours out of each one consistently, bi-weekly, weekly, whatever that might be, hopefully it's able to give us a much more stable sort of coverage without placing the stress on holdover or a
Overtime.
significant amount of
Yeah.
overtime.
Okay,
And
thanks.
also allow us for the special events and times where we need to staff that second truck to have a depth of roster, because we just need people who are going to participate.
Yep.
If that's a fair way to put it.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all. Have a
good
great night.
clarification, thank you.
Got a couple of minutes, let's do the
Oh.
warrants.
I move that we approve the March 19th, 2025 payroll warrant of $88,981.11.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Oh, I move that we approve the March 19th, 2025 vendor warrant of $351,863.38, of which that includes the Franklin Tech School assessment, hence the larger amount, because the Franklin Tech School assessment is $178,000, $178,956.75, as well as health insurance, $14,446.50. EMS vehicle maintenance is $15,552.95, and EMS equipment repairs was $12,827.81.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstain. Not in protest, I just didn't, I had a meeting right before this, so I
Oh.
hadn't had a chance to review.
Tom,
Oh,
you're up.
6:15 on the
We need to-
nose.
Do we need to? Because we have 3 sewer commissioners here, so that we
Oops.
can,
Oh, right.
if we do speak as the sewer commission, so we need to,
I call the meeting to order. Karen
Okay.
Boudreaux, Sewer Commissioner.
okay.
Um,
Let's go ahead. Let's let Tommy go, or?
wanna go? Go ahead.
So I've been back and forth on this Highland Ave culvert and came up with a proposal to try to make it a win-win for all parties and try to get more production for the project itself. It's a grant. Originally it was gonna be bid out, the sidewalks and that to save, because it was a grant. But if we do it ourselves in-house, I can probably roughly, I think I'm figuring high actually. My figure is like $130,000 for the town to do it ourselves. Buying all the materials, the culverts, everything we need to do the project. I've been in touch with the engineer, trying to figure out if there was a way to repurpose the money, if we could save money by doing it in-house. We did have a Zoom meeting last week with engineers and everything else, which I think went very well. Which basically leaves, if we could, there's about $422,000 to do the project. These are all approximate numbers,
Yep.
because there's still some bills, I think, out there from the engineers and different things. Which leaves a difference roughly of $292,000. So the money could be, the engineers, it would have to go back to the engineers would have to apply to the state to ask if the money could be repurposed for other infrastructures. And I know at the time the sewer bid theirs out, and didn't have money to do their project. So my thought was, if we could save this money, we could reappropriate the money to give to the sewer department. This would allow us to get the sidewalks completed, culvert completed, the sewer extension done, which would allow us to get Highland Ave completed. Because as it stands right now, if the sewer doesn't do their project, and we do the sidewalks, the sewer lines go under the new sidewalks. So the sewer department would have to come up, or there's only a couple different scenarios. They'd either have to dig and put piping at this time underneath the new sidewalk, or the new sidewalks would have to be dug up, or they would have to core bore under the new sidewalks. I mean, the one thing I don't want to see is the town spend money for new sidewalks and put cuts in them. Even core boring's tricky, because if you hit a rock, you hit a root, it doesn't always work. This was a scenario that I kind of came up with, and Andrea wanted me to run it by with it because of it being a grant and everything else. The project couldn't start till July anyways, due to conditions put on by the conservation for high water. And it's also a thing for the Army Corps engineers, the high water. It's not through DEP, it's through the actual Army Corps engineers. My personal opinion, I know we can do the job. I've done several jobs bigger than this, deeper than this. I think it's kind of a win-win all around for the town.
Didn't you guys, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, no,
Oh, sorry. Didn't you guys do the culvert on Holton, just around the corner
Which
from
is
there?
on the same street.
Yeah, okay. Is that basically the same size and shape and?
This one's a little smaller actually, and it's not as deep. That one that we did on around the corner was 36 feet in the ground.
Right.
This one's only 15 feet in the ground.
Plus you had to redo the bridge and everything too. And what, it's not really a bridge, but
Yeah,
yeah.
all the sidewalks, we did the sidewalks, and well, I mean, on that one, when we saved the money, we repaved the road from Main Street to the corner. Plus we did all new sidewalks down Holton to the church at the same time.
Yep.
It's a proposal that's out there, one of the and when you get into these, because the estimate for this culvert job is around, they're basing it around 450,
And you're saying you can do it for what?
130.
And when they came to Conscom, they said they would allow 3 months for the project, but you did the other one in how
We
long?
did the other one in 4 weeks.
Okay.
So the road wouldn't be closed as long. I mean, weather permitting, if you get a monster major, which nobody can predict, whether it's a contractor, whether it's us, or any of that. But the dry season is basically from July to September, mid-September. So the closing of the road, I was kind of taken back when I asked the engineer, and his answer to me was, well, if they found a good contractor, they should be able to do it in 3 months. I thought that was a long time for a contractor that does this every day. I mean, it's a fairly simple project. It isn't as complicated as the one we did over on the other side of Holton, because that was so deep.
What's the trade-off for you from a work standpoint then? Because you're doing it in what, July or August? So what does that do to your?
One guy can still be mowing the roads. That's basically we're mowing at that time, and it depends on any storms. But I mean,
Yeah.
paving, we're in limbo on any type of paving because the bids, once the bids open, normally everybody wants their paving done in July, so that's why they usually push. We never get our paving done till September or so anyways.
Okay.
So I mean, there's a couple projects we're gonna finish this spring on paving as soon as we can pave.
So you're saying that you could do the part that we had bid out originally for the sewer part of it?
No, that was gonna be done, that was the only trade-off is, I guess you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, have sent a letter, rejecting all the bids because he didn't have the money.
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
But the engineer said if the low bidder will hold his price that you sent it to, it's perfectly legal, they'll work on that end of it. They did contact the low bidder already, which was Caracas, I think he said. And they will hold their price at the I don't know what it was, 268 and change, or 268
Something-
even,
yeah,
or,
something like that.
269, something
Right.
like that.
and if they hold their price, there's money, there should be money enough here to, the big thing is with a contractor, if they bid this at I think it was 459 or something
The highest one?
for
Oh,
our,
for yours, sorry.
yeah, that's what the estimate was. Then if they run into contingencies on it, the project could turn into 500, 550, you never know if they hit something that's unexpected.
Yeah. Or
Um,
you do. Yeah.
It could be the same for us, but with the contractors, it's almost double the cost as what we can do stuff for. And it depends on what you're into it for.
You'll just end up with a delay and you'll go off and do another project.
Yeah, it depends on what it is, but I mean,
And
they've done,
the road would be closed for long. I'm just thinking
Right.
worst case scenario.
they've done test holes all around there, so it's ledges. The biggest questions on the whole thing is the water main and the sewer line. And they think they determined the water line actually goes under the culvert where they thought it went over it.
Oh.
And then when I was talking with the engineer, the only downfall to that is where they have their grades designed, because they were told it was over it. Now, if it's under it, they might have to make some adjustment on the depth of the culvert for the stream flow to go through the same.
So we have an existing grant that is meant to pay for this job, and it would cover the 400,000 or whatever amount that's already been bid. And you're saying that you could do it for less, and we could conceivably repurpose that money and use that money to pay for other things that the town needs, infrastructure things.
And
with the
it would
sewer.
have to go to infrastructure,
Yeah.
correct? Is
No, I
what
think
it's-
the bid was for the sewer. That
Right,
was.
we
open.
haven't bid the
Not bid the
culvert project yet.
construction project.
The engineer did though say in
The
the
engineer's
400,000.
proposal
He
was
has a construction
459.
estimate. He has a construction estimate,
It was
Right,
459.
but it hasn't been bid. What's been
Okay.
bid is the sewer line.
Okay.
So now they're saying if he can do the culvert, which has not been bid, off the book, is move the sewer, which has been bid with a fixed cost, into the book.
And then
Correct.
try and maneuver,
That's the
get the
swap.
grant onto the sewer.
Yes, you have to
Okay.
contact Mass Works, we'll have to.
So we don't know, we haven't received approval for that yet.
well, we need the okay from the meeting
Right,
here.
right.
Okay, it's a
Before they-
catch 22. Okay.
That's a tipping point, and
Okay.
not that we're forcing you to make the decision tonight, it's just, it's time, it's a time crunch right now, because it's gonna go out to bid,
Right.
Yep.
for the sidewalks and the culvert, if we decide not to go this route.
Who makes the decision on whether or not that we can move the money over?
Well, I recommended he bring it to the select board for you to make a decision on whether you're approving that switch, because the grant was approved, board knew about it, everybody was all on it. We have two grants involved, actually, because half of the sidewalk, or some portion of the sidewalk work is being done with Complete Streets, that's not affected by this. The rest of the project, the additional sidewalk made sense to put in the grant for the culvert, because you're not gonna put that sidewalk in until the culvert's done. And then you'll put the new sidewalk in, so we split the sidewalk. Complete Streets grant is fine, there's no proposed change for that, that will stay sidewalk. What's the proposed change is to take out the construction of the culvert and move the sewer main in. Have the town use forced labor and current, well, what would be fiscal 26 funding to purchase the supplies, or chapter 90, I don't know how I was going with that. To do the actual culvert and contact the state, the Mass Works program, and ask for a change for the funding from a culvert to a sewer main.
Got
So
it.
the answer is Mass Works.
Mass Works will have the ultimate say.
Okay.
But we haven't applied because I said he really should bring it to the board first, so you got a clear understanding
Yeah.
of what we instruct the
Do we have any
engineers
history
to
of
do.
Mass Works pitch on this, or no?
I've never changed a MassWorks project. Do I think it's impossible? I mean, apparently they've done it. I do not think it's impossible. It's an infrastructure grant, so,
You would think.
right, I think you can make a pitch.
Okay.
Karen? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I have a few things. Thank you, Tom. So the sewer commission and the superintendent have voted that our priorities for projects going forward are the asset management plan, the water line, and the electrical panel. Over the fall, we went out to bid to see about rerouting sewer lines so that we could try to coordinate with Tom and the highway department. The open bid process was in December. Between going out to bid, Weston and Sampson did the engineering and packaged everything up and went out to bid. Between that time, half of our electrical panel at the sewer plant died. It's hot wired right now. Rough estimates for that is $300,000. We don't have it, okay? We voted as our priorities the asset management plan, water line replacement, electrical panel, and we are currently also working on the beginnings of USDA funding for the asset management plan. The chief also supports these priorities. We sent out a bid rejection that we can't do it. We can't do it because of the timing. The electrical panel came in the middle of that whole bid process. What it did give us was some good numbers to go by, the range to go by. We got 12 bids for what we call the sewer reroute project. But we don't have the money for it. The only thing that I wanted to say on behalf of the sewer is if for some reason this project needs to go out to rebidding, regardless of the grant funding or anything else, the sewer does not have the funds to send this out to rebid for anything. It would have to come out of general funds. I think infrastructure would cover that, but it would have to come out of general funds. If there are additional engineering costs towards this, because we've closed that project. We've said as a commission, we're not doing it. If there are additional engineering costs, it's got to come out of either general funds or the permission to have that grant cover wider infrastructure, including sewer. If you can do this with the resources and everything that you've got, and it goes through and it's all good.
All
Thank you.
legal?
It's all legal, it's all good. One of the things that surprised me last week was the engineer that Tom is working with is an engineer that we've also worked with. And I got this very nice communication, and it's like, it's all free and it's all magic and you don't have to do anything. And then I just started getting emails for information. I'm like, first of all, we closed the project. We rejected the bids, and I don't have to do anything. So why am I getting all these emails? So that was part of the consternation last week, was like, okay, this has to stop. I can't influence a grant. I can't shoot down your good ideas on projects. I just need to make sure that the sewer commission, the sewer department don't go into debt.
The ratepayers.
The ratepayers don't go into debt. Don't absorb expenses that we were not counting on. So that's why I'm here.
May I ask a question, Chair?
Yeah. Go ahead.
So I need to clarify because I'm not sure that I understood. Did you say that we can't afford a rebid? So if we don't need to, currently, so if we have them hold that low bid, then we don't need to rebid?
I'm not saying that.
Oh,
I'm not saying, I can't make that statement.
The
That is
engineer said
that the engineer, Sarah, has to make that statement, and I would really like it in writing.
I see.
Right,
Okay.
that's kind of the and when he uses the word magic, I get real nervous.
Yeah.
All right, that's part of it. There's check boxes of things that have to happen correctly, and then it's a decision of move forward or modification or something like that. Thank you.
Okay. And then, Tom, 2 questions. So we've got an estimate from the engineer saying it's gonna be around $459, the build cost is around $459. So when that goes out, do people who bid on that, do they see that?
Yeah, that's how they bid it. It's an
And so
itemized
do
list.
the bids ever come, do they often come below the estimate of the
They're
engineer?
right, they're usually all over. It's the same thing they did. They would had the same exact, that's how they bid their project.
Okay.
So they would go out with this itemized. You're gonna see, most generally, you'll see bids from, if the engineer says they're gonna be 450 or 460 or 480, whatever, there you might see something at 400, you might see it a little lower, and you might see something at 500. Like, similar to what they did. They had their low
Oh,
bid
there
was
was-
268 and their high bid was over 400 or something like.
6. They can be $300,000.
Right.
One of the things that Tom brought up when he was still on the commission is let it go out to bid and see what we get, because we had some engineers come in and do just some field inspection on it and say, okay, we're thinking 330,000, you know, kind of throwing spaghetti against the wall. So when Tom was on the commission, he said, let it go out to bid, see what we get back. No sooner had we done that, and the electrical panel died.
Right.
So it did give us good numbers. It gave us a good engineering plan from Wesley and Sampson, and it gave us numbers to manage by, look at.
So we know the range, even though we don't have, it hasn't gone out to bid, we
Right.
know the range of cost that bids will
Well,
approximately come.
the sewer has gone out to bid.
Right.
No, I'm
Yeah,
talking
but
about
they're close,
Thompson.
right.
No, you just have an estimate.
Yeah.
All you have
So-
is a construction estimate. You don't give them the construction estimate, you give them the
specs?
list. You're gonna need this much pipe, this much conduit, this much, and they then price it themselves and give you back a pricing sheet that will show you their costs, and that's always interesting to see what those prices come in at, because some of them will do it for more, some will do it for less, some will shave some off their labor, their profit margin, it always depends on how hungry they are for the work. And they don't know how many bids you're gonna get, so sometimes you get them high because they think, well, if a lot of people don't respond, I'm gonna take this one on the side and I can get it for a higher price.
Right.
So they get knocked out if there's a lot of lower bids. You just don't know.
Okay.
And it all depends on how many bids you get too. I mean, if some people already have a ton of work, it depends on their range of how much work the contractors, some of them they'll throw a high bid in there, so if they get it, then they'll use subcontractors half the time to come in and do the job. Cause they don't have time, cause they've already got multiple jobs they've got. It's hard to say, and spring is usually a good time because everybody's hungry, cause they finished stuff up from last year, they have a little bit to finish up now to move on.
Okay, and then my last question, Tom, was, you have information from the engineer that they've asked them to retain that low bid? Is that what you said?
Yeah, Zach at Titan Bond texted me yesterday
And so that,
and said that he spoke with, I can't remember, Marcus, I think the guy's name
Yes.
was.
so we've got that in writing?
I don't know if it's in writing, it's just in a text to me that
Oh,
he
I
said
see.
he would hold
The low
his
bid?
bid, at the low bid. The
Okay,
way I understand it through Zach, after you explained everything, if that bid was to change just by $1 or by 50 cents, then it would have to go back out to bid. But if the bidder will hold the bid at that, which it would also, like you said, have to be in writing for everybody.
right.
Right, and the
And
sewer
but
commission is-
in this situation, it's shut down and set aside, so any future action on it, it'll have to go back out to bid anyway, right?
Correct.
If you
The
don't
sewer line.
The
Yes,
sewer line,
the
because you
sewer
said
line
you
was.
set everything aside?
Right.
So in the future, if we do it again, it'll go out to bid?
Oh, it has to go out to bid,
Yeah,
yes.
It
Yeah.
has to be bid.
Okay,
I mean, I think the next steps that you're looking at is to ask the engineers to do the budget. They need to take what's available, where we're at, how much they've spent on engineering, and they have to redo the budget and show that they can do this and how much will be there, and so that until he's confident that, you know, before we say, no, we're not doing it's the other way, that it will work. So, and then the second would be, I think you'll get an affirmation from the contractor. What happens is, if he's in agreement, you award the bid, and then you sign a contract. Even if he doesn't start till July, you'll have him under contract.
Do we have to vote on for going forward and under the condition that it doesn't add any,
Well,
We
the
have to work-
conditions that we need is everything in writing,
Yeah.
okay? So we need everything in writing.
We don't want any surprises
There will
later
be
on
no
based on this.
surprises.
All right.
I know he's got a good sense of how things could go, but
That's why you want them to redo you want them to redo the
Okay,
budget
that's
the way
what takes
the
care of
original
that.
bid went.
Okay.
And Mass Works is gonna demand that.
so
They're
do
not
I,
gonna just let you move money.
Go
They're
ahead.
gonna wanna say, how are you costing
Okay.
this?
do I need to make a motion to go forward as long as it's not costing us any money at this point?
On the sewer commission or on the
On the
select
sewer
board?
commission?
Okay, so I'm gonna mention
Yeah.
that we are willing to move forward with this idea as long as it doesn't have to go out to bid again, and we get everything in writing that we need to reduce risk, eliminate cost, and that it is funding-wise okay through a grant to purchase sewer parts, that's an enterprise fund, and pay for general fund labor
And contract administration and
and
oversight.
contract administration and engineering costs.
Yeah.
That's,
I'll second that.
I was going to second that. I was just waiting for the
sorry.
shoe to drop.
Any further discussion?
No, I just wanted, we needed a motion.
Right.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay. Now we need the select board.
Can
Need
I
a
just
mo-
ask a question? Where does Chapter 90 come in? Does Chapter 90 funding come in
We've
at all to
already
this?
put a little in towards the engineering part
You
of it.
committed
Okay.
it during the grant process, chapter 90, some chapter
Okay.
90 money was committed.
Okay, just wanted to
the
double
project.
check.
28,000's been
Okay.
committed to it.
Thank you.
So select board motion to proceed with the engineer doing a spreadsheet on the up-to-date costs and
A new budget.
new budget.
So I move that we approve the concept of having the engineer provide a new budget and that we would support reaching out to MassWorks for a repurposing of the grant so that we can do the sewer line at the same time as the project, overall project for Highland Avenue.
Second.
How's that? Does that work?
I also, just so you know, I made it clear that it also has to include the sidewalk work.
Okay,
That's
yep.
part of the original grant, it needs to.
Should we put that in the motion then?
No, it needs to,
Okay.
it needs to
'Cause-
include the same
okay.
work, but he seemed to think that was not.
That was kind of where we
Right.
started
That's
a
why you
long
wanna
time
see it.
ago was with the sidewalk, right?
That's why you wanna see a detailed
5 years
budget.
ago? Yeah. Okay.
I'll second that motion. Any other discussion?
I do have one question. Does the highway department do sewer work as well? Is there an option to have you guys?
Well, we've done it before, but
Okay.
we don't mind doing it
Okay.
if we have the time to do it. I mean, we've helped out with brakes and other things over the years. Jetting, especially when we had the jetter, we don't have the jetter truck anymore, but,
Because it's all in one hole, right? The water pipe, the sewer pipe,
yes,
the
that one
culvert.
section of that will be, the sewer project itself is on the other end.
Oh, it's
than
further.
that.
I got it. Okay.
That itself is on the other. It's just like I said, the sticky point is, I think it was 5 or 6 crosses in the sidewalk for houses to hook on.
Got it.
So if you do a brand new side, they come in and do the culvert and a brand new sidewalk, and then 3 years from now, they decide to do the sewer.
Right.
You gotta get under the new sidewalk that we just paid the money for.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I don't like to see. Unless you can get sleeves or something installed, if you have the proper height and where they're coming out of everybody's house, which can be a little tricky with the adjustment of a sewer line.
Right.
That's why it's always usually better to do one right at the same time.
Yep.
The big dig.
Okay.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor on the select board?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Tell them to proceed and just keep us in the loop, because I don't know, we'll probably have to vote sewer commission will have to vote on it again possibly? or-
Tomorrow?
No, no.
No, you won't have the information
No,
back.
we have-
Oh, okay, right, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
So you want me to contact Zach and her, or are you gonna try to?
I can email him tonight, I'll email him in the morning. Just
Okay.
tell him we're looking for a detailed
Motion.
budget redo and
Motion to
Plan to
adjourn the
contact.
sewer commission?
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay,
Okay.
thank you, everybody, thanks,
Thank
Tom.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, boss.
Talk to you, Tom.
Okay.
Okay, we're a few minutes behind, sorry about that, but we figured while we had it all, we needed to,
Needed to get all the puzzle pieces from the
oh, yeah.
island.
Might want to adjourn that sewer commission meeting.
Yeah, okay, well, finance
you did
committee.
Oh, did you? I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
we
I
just
missed that.
did,
I was
yeah.
just writing my notes.
Sorry.
Last year.
Karen was right on it.
I'd like to bring the meeting to order at 6:42.
There's room for 4 chairs, you can all come.
We'll
Two
sign.
mics.
Good. No,
Yeah,
we
Yeah, you'll give that.
pull a couple chairs. Front row.
Good evening, all.
Hello.
I'd like to bring you up to date with our budget. First of all, I want to give you a little bit of a history of the budget. We start usually just after January. We go 3 months. We call in all offices. We call in all of the committees, all of the other aspects of the town. The only monetary thing that we don't input on salaries. Salaries are already locked in. They're either on a scale. The only thing that the finance committee does is we recommend COLA. The COLA this year was anywhere between 0 and 6%. The committee, absent myself, recommended a 3% COLA increase. The reason I leave is I have an interest, so I have to actually leave the room. So to begin with, we're going to start off with the omnibus. I think everybody has the omnibus in front of them. The omnibus is the operating capital, operating budgets of all of the departments and committees in the town of Northfield. They're broken into different parts. We're going to start off with the general government. If you look on this particular page, one thing that stands out is the select board, let me see. Let me borrow this. The select board expenses have gone up. The reason being is that incorporates our new website, which we are in the process of changing over. And hopefully that will help to get more information out to all the people in the town of Northfield. So that is an ongoing thing that will be started in July. Everything else on here is pretty cut and dry. We'll see some of the departments have gone down. One thing that has been taken over on the general government is the custodial hall wages. The custodian will now come under the town hall.
Well, the custodian is under it, it's the.
It is under, we're just,
It's maintenance labor, the new maintenance,
thank you.
reinstalling the maintenance
Yeah,
position.
yes, and it'll be under the jurisdiction of, town hall. The reason being is we're getting a few more buildings, hopefully. We're looking at an EMS building. We still have some maintenance we'll be doing to the fire department if need be. We have the school, although they have their maintenance, but if it is our building and we might have to get involved in that in the future. So we want to make sure we maintain and take care of our buildings. So I've seen a lack of maintenance happening through the buildings, at least in town hall. And we need to, we've had some issues with the heating this year that would have been caught in normal maintenance. So that hopefully will be taken care of in the future. On this particular page, anything that you would have any questions on the general government portion of the omnibus?
Yeah, I have a few questions. I know that'll come as a surprise.
No, that's all.
So the increase in select board technology, I'm on the line item,
Yep.
is the website.
The new website that it is in the planning stages, so I have not seen
It's
it
the
yet.
software that we
Yes.
approved.
Right.
Yeah.
If that's 5,000 of it, 2,000 of it is the phones. We've added some people into the system like highway, so now that phone bill's coming under one line item. So
Yeah, the select board telephone, but we don't, what's that? Is
that's
that,
everybody's phones in town hall.
so that should be on the town hall? Like, when,
Oh, we're kind of, do you mean?
I don't, it's the select board's office is what that's generally considered. So, town hall has always been more considered the maintenance aspect. Heating, water, sewer, the select board office has carried those. It's all prior to me, I don't know why it was set up that way, but that's the way it has been, so.
and that, you bring up another question, and this is just about where the
postage,
lines are.
There's an
Yes.
increase in postage.
Is the town hall shares the building. We've got the select board office, which is really the administrator's office over there, right? Because this is the, and then we've got the senior center, we've got the police station. Do the bills, the electric and heating and stuff like that, is that split?
No.
Or, no? Okay. So that all comes out of town
There would
hall?
be no way to split
No,
that.
I worked for a number of towns in the past as an accountant. You just don't split those.
Okay.
It's actually better, I've been hoping to consolidate. The more bills you have, the more inefficient the whole thing is.
Right, because you have to pay more different names. Fiddling with it, right?
And the
Yeah,
accountant's
yeah, yeah.
dealing with 20 bills
Okay.
instead of one,
Yeah.
and it's,
And the reserve fund for 55,000, what is that, what is that?
Reserve fund is under control of the finance committee. If anything should come to, or something should happen that was not happen, it's just like an accident, or a boiler goes in the school, or the boiler goes here, and we have not budgeted for any of that. The finance committee has the ability to release some of those funds to take care of that particular option. We had the stove gone, gas stove. It was, probably as old as the building. And they couldn't run their programs. So they came to us and we took money out of reserve fund, I think it was around $8,000, so they could purchase and install a gas stove, so now they can go on with their program. So it was money well spent. It was done in an exact way that the reserve fund is used for. In the past, we've also used it towards the end of the fiscal year. If somebody's budget is lacking, I have a bill it was unforeseen bill or something unforeseen happened, and they have nowhere in their budget to recoup some of that, they would come to the reserve fund, and the reserve fund, if we had the funds, would be able to take care of that bill or that particular problem.
And does the reserve fund roll over? Is there more than, because we have budgeted 55,000?
True. If we don't use it, no, it goes back into free cash for the following year. That is just a line item. It's $55,000 every year.
the omnibus is all ends June 30th.
Okay.
This is the operating
And
budget.
so it all goes
None
back
of
into
this
free
carries
cash?
over.
Yes. Yeah.
Unless they submit a special bit of paperwork and it has to be for something already expended. You can't just hold money for something for next year.
Okay.
That's
And I
not-
know that you understand what, everybody here hopefully understands what free cash is, but every time we have a chance to put it on air, free cash is money that is left over from the previous year. So when somebody puts their budget, they're using a crystal ball. They don't know, they're using past practices to come up with what their budget would be for that year. Well, lo and behold, they don't spend as much as they thought they had. That money goes back into free cash for the following years and helps offset some things, and you're going to see how we can offset some of the things later on when we start talking about where funds are coming from.
Okay.
And there is a policy in the financial policies, free cash is not used to plug holes in operating. Very bad practice, because then you're now relying on something that doesn't necessarily show up next year. So free cash is typically used for one-time expenditures and capital expenditures. That's the financial policies, and the town adopted those a number of years ago.
Yeah.
Any more questions on that part of the bondman's budget?
Yes, so we have 100% savings on the assistant treasurer salary, and that goes into there was a different position, right?
That's correct. It's kind of,
The
that
financial
position went away, or that money went away, but it's incorporated into another area, and that would be is it the fiscal assistant?
Financial assistant.
Financial
It's further
assistant.
up on the report.
Okay.
You'll see that goes up 5,000 and the other goes down total 12.
So where we're seeing a lot of negative percentages and the
Yeah, but some of that
percentage
goes,
change
yeah.
Is
is,
it
then
shift?
it's kind of recouped up above in the positive.
Yes, it
Yeah.
goes into, it's just streamlining positions as far as doing that, because we have, and making them more understandable.
We had 2 part-time positions that we merged. It's still a part-time position, but we took the assistant treasurer collector and we took the financial assistant position. We thought it'd be more attractive to offer somebody a 19-hour-a-week position than a 12 and a 7 or a 12 and a 5.
Yeah.
And so we put that together. We got a great person in there, but we merged it all under the financial assistant position. And so we're dropping the assistant treasurer collector. It was a person actually sits in the treasurer collector's office, but they work in both areas. In fact, our
Right.
new financial assistant did the warrant this week completely. So.
Right, which is great. I'm just saying, like, it's really from a math standpoint, money got moved from one account line into other account lines, and that's why you end up with those sizable, I always look at sizable percentages, negative or positive. They should net out basically into that financial assistant line, which is new. Right, that's basically
Correct.
what we're saying from a math and
Yes.
spreadsheet
Well, we had a
standpoint.
financial assistant. We just had small hours. We decided to put them together and keep it as the financial
So
assistant.
you moved more money into that account line.
That $5,000 and
Yeah,
dropped.
I'm just
the-
saying,
Rather than
I'm just
splitting it.
saying for folks
Yep.
at home, this is,
Yeah.
That's the idea. Yeah.
the amount of money isn't significantly different, it's that it's in different account lines. And so you get these percentages that normally when you're looking at them in a meeting, you kind of go, what's that?
It's nice to
Right?
be done 100%.
It's actually a
Yeah, and then the
That's
minus
fine.
100, which you never get, so that's an odd one, yeah.
It is.
Okay. Was there anything else that came up in the finance committee meetings that you guys questioned a little bit more deeply, or this all looks fine to you guys as well?
Well, again, we are recommending grants, so when we look at
Right.
everybody's budgets come in, we question them, and they have to justify
Right.
what their budget is. And there were some areas that we did discuss, some things we, like I said, we don't have control over, and we'll get into those a little bit later,
Okay,
that have to do with,
that's okay. I mean, under
Electric, yeah,
general, is
yeah,
there
yeah.
any recommendations or concerns that you guys had under general? No? Okay. Then maybe we can,
we can move on,
okay.
unless there's more questions. Public safety.
Yeah.
Deals with police, fire, animal control, EMS.
Inspection.
Well, EMS we'll get to later because they have their own little funds.
Inspection services are in there.
So if you look at
Wow.
the whole budget for public safety, which is police, fire, building inspector, gas inspectors, wiring, civil defense, animal control, tree department, the budget went up 0.98%. So it went up $7,839. So I think that they did their due diligence. They knew that we were looking at them and we wanted them to justify their budget. And I think they did a pretty good job. One of the things that came off, if you look through here, had to do with the police. It's not, that reduced them somewhat. I don't think
The
it's
inspections?
Quinn. That would be on the line item.
The Quinn bill.
The Quinn bill is a bill that was, we paid it automatically, and it was several $1,000s. I think it was around $20,000 that was put into that account. And it was found that it was not needed, so that has been deducted from the police budget, and that helped them to reduce their budget somewhat.
We
But then it
reconstructed
enhanced.
that differently with their new contract. We built into the
So
salary
it's in their
more
salary
money as
if-
opposed to the Quinn bill.
Yes, yeah.
So we
It was done a fairer way that it was out there, so that it was done on merit, and it was done, you know, when they negotiated for the contract, which was a much better way to do it, rather than saying, yeah, the wind bill's here, you're gonna get this amount of money. So that has worked out, and it was kind of archaic, so they decided it was really not something they really needed, thanks to the chief, I guess. So that worked out well.
Well, actually, that was I think when we went through the whole contracting thing, it made more sense
It's not to have it anymore.
Yeah. the chief
not to
said that.
have it separated and put it into the contract so that as police officers make their educational milestones, it's reflected
Yeah,
in their
it's fair,
salary,
fair way
as
of
opposed
doing
to having to go dig into this separate account, which was kind of a little bit unpredictable, I think. Yeah, as to whether we are going to use it whenever they hit their educational milestones.
I think what happened a lot of times, it went right back into free cash after. a
Well,
year. So
no,
you know,
it was calculated on what we estimated we were going to have to spend. So we spent most of it, but some of it was an educated guess on basic, with what we thought was coming. And I just want to point out that one of the reasons the police salaries and wages line does not appear so high is that you did have some officers who left employment who were earning at a higher stage. You have newer officers who've come in at a lower grade, at lower step. So there's a trade-off there in the budget. So even though we reflected some of that money from the what would have been the educational incentive into the budget, what we also did was we based this on the employees that we have, pretty much, so we don't fluff the budget.
That's impressive.
So some employees left who had higher steps or retired or left, and so we started lower.
So even with that great contract, then the percent change from last year is 0.46%?
0.5%.
Wow.
Yeah, more or less.
So, I mean, so I noticed the police budget is 573,000, and the fire is 152,000. That, now, we're still, on the fire, we pay them when they come in per diem. There's not that much difference in like benefits, right? What's the?
There's no benefits in the.
That's what
fire
I'm saying.
department.
That's what
They're
I'm
not
saying.
benefiting
So
from
it's
it.
573,000 versus 152,000, but
That's all wages. Well, most of that is wages.
wages, right? But the fire folks get paid too.
Right, they work a lot less. It's just when they get called in for.
So
fire.
it's a
These are
difference in
full-time
hours?
positions.
Okay.
These are full-time positions.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, you're talking a 40-hour as opposed to maybe a 10-hour every once in a while or something like that. Again, it's as needed, whereas the fire department is there 24/7.
You don't have
The
any
police
full-time
department,
staff
yeah.
on fire.
So everybody's there 24/7. It's just the rate at which we use them. So for example, with fire, it might be like 300 calls per year for an actual fire as opposed to like 1,000 EMS calls or police going out every, few minutes.
Well, but the full-time on the clock part is the big difference. too.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
Correct. Any question on public safety?
No, just noting though, again on the negative percentages here, we moved inspections. Is this because we moved the inspections to the FERCOG inspection program?
Correct.
Yeah, because there's like negative 78% and.
Right, we
Yeah,
dropped.
those are the gas. Are you talking gas?
Yep, gas and
Yeah,
plumbing,
electric.
wire,
Right.
yep.
Yeah.
And the EMS is not considered public safety because they have an enterprise fund, correct?
Yes, they're not in the
Correct.
omnibus.
Right.
They have their own article.
They're still public safety.
They're public safety, they're just in
I just am
separate.
talking, yeah.
Yeah, they're not in the omnibus.
We'll get to that.
No offense
That's the
intended.
next page.
Yeah, and they're not in the
As far as
omnibus.
spreadsheets go. Yeah,
Now, one of the bigger would be public works and facilities. Highway administration expenses, department wages, okay. We're gonna get down to highway bridges and rails. That has gone up. He increased his budget by almost 20,000, 19,900. He felt he need more in that to take care of more roads. So that was what was determined when we sat down and talked to him. And again, some of these things, if you're talking oil and stone and that, these, if the cost of the materials have been going up.
Yeah.
So a lot of these increases you're going to see are the cost of materials, cost of just doing business. It has very little to do with the actual work being done sometimes, but it is the cost of materials that has to be done. Snow and ice, that is kind of a crystal ball. They have to kind of figure, well, we're gonna have a lot of snow this year or not a lot of snow this year, so they tend to have that a little bit heavy in the past couple of years where we've
have
had
a
a lot of snow.
calculation
It's
that.
yeah.
I do a certain amount of hours of overtime, a certain amount of hours of, they switch now into winter wages at a certain time of the year. So they actually do 7 months of the year, April through October, in regular wages, and then they switch automatically into what we call the winter wages, starting in November. But then I have a calculation based on their salaries of how much overtime. Winter roads, winter wages, snow and ice expenses is one item that by law you can overexpend and
Right,
make up after the fact.
So
You
where
can put it
free
on the
cash
re-
could be.
You can put it on the recap, you can even put it on the recap, you can put it at the end of the year and put it back on the tax rate for next year. We always try to balance it out in the year, we've never done that, we try to balance it out with the wages so that we're not pushing it forward. The thing to understand here, and why you're seeing a huge jump in snow and ice wages, is that, and why you don't see a big jump in the highway department wages. This is a new position that is in this budget, and you're not seeing it because we took the position of maintenance out. That's where you're seeing it in town hall. But really, there's one position we're discussing that's completely new. And since we moved maintenance to the town hall, it's actually the highway position that is completely new. He's asking for a new highway worker as just highway and not maintenance. So the reason the salary goes up a little bit is because the regular wages is a difference between maintenance worker, which is a slight bit lower, and the new position, which is a slight bit higher. The reason you see a huge bump in winter roads is I did not calculate for the maintenance person to have the same amount of overtime at winter roads expectation as I do for a new highway worker who will be doing way more winter roads work calculated on the spreadsheet. Obviously, if anyone wants to see it,
And
But
another thing-
here's the
that's an addition,
calculations.
isn't it though, because the maintenance person was a highway, wasn't that role was supposed to be
When
a
I
highway?
started, the maintenance worker was in the town hall.
Okay.
So that wouldn't have been an increase, that was already there. Several select boards later, they decided to move the maintenance position into the highway budget and make it a maintenance highway position. That hasn't really worked out. And I think Tom's had some frustration with it. It hasn't really worked well
Yeah.
because we're putting in work orders for things and they get to them, they get to them. The problem is, and you can ask the library, I mean, at one point this year, all 3 heating systems were out in the town hall. They came in, it was 55 degrees. These were out, the one half of the building for those were out. The pellet boiler was out because the ash had built. Nobody was getting those warnings to go dump the ash, so that turned off and the boiler failed to go on. So 3 heating systems and we had a 55 degree building. Some of that's just maintenance, it's routine, it's coming in, and that's not exactly how that position was being used. He was sending a person, whoever, at times when we put in a work order. So if we put in a work order for something, it got done. We said change this or do that, but it wasn't doing the routine maintenance that we need. We just changed over. I had a huge elevator bill, which you guys may be seeing because we just had a huge problem with the elevators, you all know. We just replaced all the emergency flat lights, the exit lights. Those all failed. But those are the kinds of things that a maintenance person tests and watches in this building, in particular the library. She's got quite a list. So we met with Bernie and Tom and had a discussion and then brought it to you, because you looked at the job description again, to put that position back in town hall with the understanding that you would propose a highway position to replace it in highway. So you're really looking at 2 people in this budget, but one is actually new.
Okay. So do we now have an electronic monitor for that, for the heater? You said nobody noticed that it.
It sends an error code. I used to get them,
It's
I don't
supposed
get
to
them
go to-
anymore.
It's supposed to go to the maintenance person.
Okay.
But-
So,
I don't know where it disappeared to, so.
So now that's gonna come under control of the town hall.
I'm
The
just-
other thing is, there's also,
I'm just
Tom
going
is
to,
looking, go ahead.
if I could interrupt just for a second. This goes back to the discussion with Lois, rest in peace. right?
Yes.
And she never wanted it because she felt that's how the town voted prior to 2019, I think.
Yeah, to be under control.
To be in
town
in
hall
terms of the
meeting.
spreadsheets, to be in the town hall. And that was, we've had this discussion, I'm looking over at Heath, we've had this discussion before about proactive maintenance. That came up during COVID because we started adding all of the air filtration things too. So I'm just going to point that out for the record, because if this discussion comes up again, the top of my head's gonna just explode. On behalf of Lois, so I'm just channeling Lois right now, where she predicted that this would happen, and we've come full circle back to the original solution that Lois insisted that we stick with, so.
I just wanted to explain why the one wages doesn't look as big as an impact as the winter wages, because that
You
more
got
had
it.
to be added
Yeah.
for that position than the wages.
And you look at the maintenance person that is working for the town hall here, supposed to be mowing the lawns, not only here, but in other areas, but the janitor's been doing that.
It's actually
So
not,
if
it's not
that's
in her job
not part of
description.
her job description, so now that's gonna be changed,
little
it's gonna
bit
be
of
done,
cleanup, yeah.
done correctly.
Great.
Also in this, a foreman is also in here too, isn't it?
Yes, the foreman's in there, which isn't a huge increase.
No,
it-
but
the-
Tom has asked for a second in charge of foreman, so there's a little, a slight uptick in again, the wages.
So the bulk of the budget increase here, which is still is 6.63, the bulk of it is in those snow lines,
yeah,
snow and ice lines. Okay, as well as, am I reading this correctly? The electricity keeps going up with the streetlights?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Do you think your electric bill's going up at
Electricity
home?
never goes down.
Right, right.
What about putting in those solar topped ones?
Well, you can go to LED streetlights, but you have to own them. So the town would have to purchase the streetlights. And it's been a number of years. We did ask for a quote. They will sell them to you, but you have to buy them. And then you have to maintain them. So you will hire an electrician who, when a light goes out, you send them off, and you keep the bulbs here, or they keep the bulbs. You can ultimately, some people say, save money, but because the electric bill goes down.
LED meaning
The
solar.
streetlights, you change the whole heads.
Well, no, I mean the ones that have solar up on
No,
top.
just,
Oh,
they're
no.
more efficient, they're not
No.
necessarily, they're not
I wouldn't
solar.
do that on your streetlights, only because you could have winter and the lights don't get enough charge.
Yeah.
So you change the heads to LED, and
Okay.
that's generally what people do. But then you own them, because EverSource isn't going to change the heads, or Verizon, who owns
And
the
the
pole.
net gain, the net savings, you think is?
Somebody would have to run those numbers. You'd have to get
We'd
somebody
have to hire, we'd have to contract with an electrician.
Yeah,
That
you'd have
right
one-
there would be
You generally
probably
find
soak
one
up all
who
your,
has a cherry picker, because they have to change the.
Have to
Yeah.
relamp it.
that's expensive. Okay,
Anything more on public works and facilities?
facilities,
If not, we'll move on to health and human services.
okay.
Stipends are, the biggest increase. Everything else pretty much falls into line. One offsets the other. The Board of Health expense is offset by the shared health agent, so that was one of the smaller
In case you
increases.
have a question, that is a requested increase to their stipends. It is not a COLA increase.
Yes.
A slight.
Did that come up for a vote, like at town meeting? No, right?
No. I-
Generally,
it-
Isn't that how the planning board did theirs? That was
I
a
believe
town
they
meeting
did.
vote.
they did, but it was a choice to put in for an article. They submitted it in their budget. So
Huh. So they voted they voted
into their
this.
budget to make that request.
How does that net out?
So the total increase was $2,078. Let me see what is going up here. Council on it, is it? No.
I think planning board
Animal
actually
inspector
didn't have
was,
stipends
the animal
too.
inspector's going up.
Right,
So you had to
No, I think
create-
it went up. Because
they
I
were-
remember somebody getting up impassionedly and saying it was,
That was,
It was
that was
quite
done
the
in town hall
discussion.
floor, I believe.
Yeah, oh yeah, because they
was.
were quite a raise. They went from like $500 to like 2,500. It was a big jump.
Okay.
I wasn't even sure they were getting.
But-
So the soldiers, did you tell me about the soldiers relief?
The what?
The soldiers relief? We're in-
Soldiers relief,
Is that the mass requirement?
yeah, it is a mass requirement. It's, if we have veterans that are in the town and request some financial support as far as doing that, they have $10,000 in there to help our veterans if they request it. I haven't seen any.
It's an application through the Veteran Service Agency, so they'd go to the one in Greenfield, which is the lower, upper Pioneer Valley, I don't. Inner Valley Regional. So there's a process, so they would go through that process with them, they go through an intake, they go through quite a bit of screening over their assets and what they own, what their financial need is, and then they send it off to Boston, it gets approved, and then once that's approved, we get billed. Like, we just get we get
Yeah,
told,
we have no
"There- you're
choice.
done."
We have to have money there
And
to.
we
You
pay
do
it.
get 75% back.
The
if you went
following
one
year.
Yeah.
So you have to put the money in the
But you
budget
have-
to
yeah, you have
pay
to
it.
fund it, yeah.
Northfield has not had anybody taking those benefits in quite some time.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Well, that's one way to control it, by making it impossible, right? So
No,
much
no, there's,
paperwork.
Buckland, when I left, had $52,000 going out.
Oh, okay.
So it's just a question
Pelham at
of,
one time had 73,000.
Yeah.
That was a tiny little town.
yeah.
It
it's-
depends, so it really depends
files.
on who files and who's living in the town.
Yeah.
So if somebody ends up passing away, then you can have a year where you're not expending anything, and then another
We
year
haven't
where,
expended anything in a few years.
right,
We have in the past expended some funds
Right.
out of this fund, and
but
the
lately
last
this
several
isn't.
years we haven't. I think
Okay.
in the height of the wars that went on forever, we had a lot of veterans that were coming back and were taking advantage of this. Since we have had a lull, hopefully we won't
Can
have
I
to do
just-
this.
We're
Yes.
using it. They
Yeah.
weren't necessarily taking advantage of it. They
I think you
served
meant
our
taking
country.
advantage of it, not
Yeah.
taking
Should.
advantage of it.
Well,
And
that's-
my understanding of the program, a lot of times it's a link, because sometimes they're eligible for disabilities or other veterans,
Right.
and this helps them get them from here to
Right.
there. It's like a stopgap for a lot of them.
Okay,
So if we don't expend the money, does it go back to free cash, or is there a
Yes.
Yep.
reserve built up for it?
Yes.
Anything-
The only reason I feel the need to put something in there is because if we get the bill tomorrow, now we're at zero.
Yeah.
So
We
it's,
try to keep funds in areas where we've seen it in the past.
I got it.
And if we haven't seen it for
Yeah.
a while, we still want to keep funds in there.
Yeah.
And if it's not used, yes, it goes back to free cash that helps offset some capital projects and different things so that we don't have to increase the tax rate for the town of Northfield.
you don't want to be
Actually, the
scrambling.
people that increase the tax rate for the town of Northfield are the people who vote for it in town hall on the annual town meeting. Any other questions on this particular segment of the omnibus? Seeing none, we'll move on to cultural, recreational, other. Dickens Library. The library is under extreme constraints, so when they bring their budget in, they are like right there at the level. They know how much they can spend, they know how much they can ask, and if they exceed that, it becomes an issue for them. So they're right on,
Right, and they have to, in order to receive state funds, they have to increase their budget by 2.5% a year, or they lose their state funding. So she's always looking at the bottom line, how do I get to just that point? Usually, and usually it's not a problem, but she has to watch it closely. This year, their budget for salaries seems a little bit high, but this year, apparently they're all on a step scale together. So every now and then you get a department that everybody's on the same step. That's going to happen with the police because we just negotiated a new contract and I'll put them on it. So in 2 years, boom, police budget's going to be higher than COLA significantly because they're now all on the same step. So you sometimes get what looks like 4.1% when you did a 3% budget because steps are going to take you above the 3.
isn't this the year also, because they presented to you guys back in January, I think, isn't this the year where they wanted to make sure that there was another part-timer in the building, like on Saturdays and at night?
And we
So-
had to add that because
So
they
they
dropped
didn't
it.
have like one person
Yeah.
trying to maintain all 3 floors with the different events.
But that I did add
Yeah.
into their fiscal 25 appropriation, even though we did it at the special. So
Okay.
that is incorporated. That's why you see some
So
of the
the
jump between
wages-
24 and 25.
Right, so the wages really, for that shift, the wage percentage really hasn't gone up that much.
No,
Am I
that
reading that correctly?
4.1, that 4.1 is actually COLA and steps.
Okay,
Pretty significant.
and they have their extra
Yeah, it went in.
person covered.
You can see from 24 to 25 that there's a bit of a jump there.
Yep,
So that's where that got absorbed.
but, and less of a jump from 25 to 26.
Correct.
Okay, got it, thanks.
And we have an increase in recreation because of the new position.
No, they're asking for $10,000 more dollars for programming staff because they're running way more programs.
Okay.
They've expanded.
Oh, and their
like
summer,
crazy.
yeah, their summer program.
Well, that one's mostly a revolving. So they
Right,
don't-
but still, aren't they paying wages to they had those folks come in and do the February one?
Yeah, sometimes yes, but these wages
Yeah.
are for a lot of the programs they're running.
Yeah,
They
they're
do
doing a lot more.
charge for some of them, but it
Yeah.
doesn't cover the cost of the staff. They have to have staff on site. If they open the gym, they have to have someone cover the
Right.
gym. Even for pickleball, for weight room, for everything they do,
Oh,
for
right.
all the adult
Yep.
programs and the kids programs, volleyball, basketball, they have to pay program staff to be present. So-
All I'm hearing is really good reports. Everything has to do with the Recreation Commission, which is a good thing because I'm seeing adults that are seeing programs that they never saw before. They're reaching out to more and more kids, so it's a great program. It's doing well. Other towns are commenting on it, so that's nice to know.
Can you tell me the difference between the Veterans Memorial Committee and the Veterans District?
The Veterans District is our capital payment to the Upper Pioneer Valley District as
Got
being
it.
a member. That other one is local for when they
It's
do.
out here. And the FERCog assessment, we pay our portion?
Correct.
There's two. There's a statutory portion for the FERCog, and
And
then there's.
programmatic.
What, I'm sorry, what?
Programmatic?
Right, so there's two different compartments to that. That's an assessment.
And again, those are something that were given and we don't have control over. That's a bill, basically, is what it is.
So that includes the inspection programs, the other program services?
No, the inspection program is on our inspection line item. If you look back up.
Oh,
you'll see
okay.
that.
Yeah.
What, is there another one though? Is the nursing one, is that under
That's in the Board of
the?
Health.
Okay,
But they are our planning agency, so we call them for the planning department advice. They'll print out maps, they can give us planning, they give us all sorts of,
Yeah.
that's for that whole staff. So anytime I call and say, can you guys give me an estimate because we want to do this
Yep.
or that, that's paying for that whole staffing model as both our planning agency and our regional
council,
council of
Got it.
governments.
okay. And that's a negative 0.56% anyway.
True.
Yep, okay.
Any questions on cultural, recreational, other? Moving on, debt service, we have no debt.
0.
And that's not always a good thing.
Oh, I don't know.
It's good to do that, but your bonding
Policy
sometimes
says
gets
you
you
should have 2 to
so-
4% debt, because
Right.
that means you're keeping up with your capital costs.
And also too, because if you
State.
don't have that, it can push when you go out to bond, it can force a higher interest rate.
They think that if you're not keeping up a routine
Right.
level in your budget of debt, you're not addressing your capital costs and it spikes,
Yeah.
which we're seeing.
Yeah,
No
however, I
police
do
station, no
not
fire
see,
station, no EMS station, because it
I do not,
spikes
I do not see this thing zero
forever.
in the near future here. There's things that are out there that we're going to talk about a little bit later when I get into some other things. But the big thing that cost us
Ugh, yeah.
was the insurance. Insurance went up 17%.
20% for the PPO, 18% for the, if
Yeah.
you're in network, for everyone.
And again, those are things that we have absolutely
retirement.
no control over, unfortunately. I guess we could control it if we don't have as many people.
And trust me, we all have been looking at what's happening across the state. So everyone looks at, because we belong to the Franklin County Group Insurance Trust, but we can look at other vendors. There's the GIC at the state level, there's the Maya program, for health insurance. Everybody is just seeing these catastrophic increases. It's not unique to the program we're in at all.
No, this
And-
basically affects everybody across the Hampshire and Franklin County.
Well, that's because they've all belonged to the Franklin.
The
County.
same thing,
They
right,
belong to the
but-
trust.
Right.
Yeah.
But I worked for like Pelham, which is part of the Amherst one, and they went way up.
Yeah,
Everybody's seen it.
The next on the agenda
okay, yeah, duly noted on
is the
that.
schools.
Can we talk about EMS, because that's the next in the spreadsheet?
I can go-
Whatever order you want to do them in.
Well, we can do the EMS and put.
No,
it
no,
to
no, I'm
that.
sorry,
Okay.
I was just trying to follow, I
Yeah.
made sure I didn't miss
I
something.
think I had them.
Education, that's fine.
Education, as far as doing it. I think that there's a typographical error that's changed on all yours.
Yeah,
When you Look at
56.
the difference with COLA is there. Northfield Elementary School, $25,000. That is for maintenance that we have, is our building. We put out money for different things. Sometimes it's painting, sometimes it's doing a
Carpeting.
floor. So that is kind of our, we own the building, we want to maintain it. The school committee stipends, they weren't aware that they were getting this as part of that,
They've been
but,
getting them for decades. Nobody ever
but
puts in for them.
there is a stipend for our school committee members. PBRS assessment. If you look across the board, it's gone down slightly. We are fortunate this year, we have gone down. Bernardston and Leiden have gone up. That's a good thing. There's some things in their budget that I want you to be aware of. One of the things that are in the budget, and I'm not sure if they've kind of forgo this year or they're holding it, there's almost $990,000 of school choice money that they want to use for an assessment to see if a new building is going to be needed, or to revamp the building that's there, anticipating housing more students.
I think it's 950.
I think it's 950 or something.
And it's for a study, not an
Study.
assessment.
A
It's for
a study. For,
building study that they're going to do in 2027,
Yes. And-
FY
Yeah,
2027.
and right now in their school choice account, I think they have well over $1,200,000 sitting there. And they're opting to use it for a study at this time.
That would be the 950.
We as not only a finance committee, but also select people have been meeting with the other two towns to discuss this. We're not super happy about it. I don't think the school sometimes realizes we hold the purse strings.
Where does the school choice money come from?
Kids from other communities that come in and pay, the town pays to let them come to Northfield because it's depends on how many slots there are available. So they can fill those slots. I think we are seeing
They
more at
pay-
down here at our elementary school now than at the high school.
So you're going to see it more at the elementary school level, and they come in. I think they only bring in 5,500. Am I right on that?
If
It's not a lot.
Massachusetts,
It's not a huge amount of
It's
money.
not a
It's a
lot.
set
So
of
if we
money.
get a kid from Greenfield going to the Bernardston Elementary School as school choice, then is it Greenfield's paying the 5,500 to the PBRS
Yeah.
school district? And then, but once they're accepted as a school choice kid, then they're committed to that kid for as long as they stay in the
Correct.
PBRS system.
And that 5,500 every
Every year.
Yeah, which is,
Yeah, it's not.
It's on the
Peanuts.
cherry sheet
Right.
for regional
Yeah.
school. You'll see the income coming in on the top, and
Yeah.
then usually if we are sending kids out, there's an assessment on the bottom.
yeah.
So it's an in and out.
So Dan, you said that Northfield is paying less and Bernardston.
Slightly less. Northfield is paying less. Bernardston, they have
They're
number of
paying,
kids that went up
they're
there.
paying more.
almost 9% increase. in
Percentage-wise.
And that's because they have more students?
No.
No, they calculated how the assessment works.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did a new formula.
Okay.
Yes,
They've
and
got
Yeah.
a lot more growth.
it has a
Yeah,
growth
they-
factor
Yeah,
in it.
yeah.
Has a
Driving
growth
down the road,
factor.
you're going to
Yeah.
see
And
a
revenue
building or
factor, those
two.
pot plants that
Yes,
are
yes.
taking
They're getting some
basically
funds
money.
there.
So the formula talks about a community's assessment to pay. So there's a whole list of things in that formula. So if your community is deemed to have grown more or have more revenue, your ability to pay goes up.
Correct.
Well, they did the
So-
same thing with the EMS, right?
So I'm not.
They do an assessment of how much you.
It's
Yeah,
not the
similar.
same.
It's not like,
But I mean, I
yeah,
just-
it's done by DESI, and DESI
Yes.
puts the.
So this
says
is a
how much.
mass formula, and
Yes.
it
Yeah.
has
It's a
to do
state
with your
formula.
foundation enrollment, right? The number of kids,
What you can afford to pay.
and then what you can afford to pay, and what's fueling. So it might look good for Northfield. So the budget, overall budget for PVRS may have gone up a certain,
2.43%.
but it doesn't affect Northfield as much because we haven't had any new growth in the revenue area. So that's how it's kind of an interesting distinction,
It
right? We
takes
kind of
22.
lucked out in terms of, because we don't have new growth, we're not paying a lot more money for our portion of the education, but it reflects the fact that we don't have new revenue growth.
But here's the thing to remember. The budget went up for Pioneer Valley Regional School
Right,
District.
Oh, yeah.
Don't-
which doesn't
don't-
show here.
It just
So-
didn't go up as much.
Well,
as it
no,
could've.
the proportion just didn't hit Northfield this year.
No.
And the other thing to remember too is that last year was an anomaly. Last year, after they released the assessments, they then had excess revenue, which they threw on the budget, which artificially deflated the budget. So it looks like the budget went down last year. The budget didn't go down last year. The revenue went up. But that was a one-time revenue. So you got to remember that the budget is still going up every single year. And some year, Northfield's going to be ahead. I mean, it's just, and that budget is still climbing. It's just the revenue dove it down one year, but it's right back up where it was, plus 2.43%. So they didn't actually cut the budget, they increased the revenue for 1 year.
So did they talk about this when they came to present the budget to the FinCom?
Oh, no, they tell you that.
Ah, do you want,
They present it a little differently.
all right, I requested that the finance, or the school committee come and present their budget to the finance committee.
Like they
More
did
than
when I
once.
was on there?
Their response to me is, no, come to us.
Yeah, they didn't.
My response to them is, we pay your salaries, or we pay the brunt of it. All three towns basically are not happy at the moment.
Right.
Because again, the towns pay the bills as far as, and we want to have more say and more, and want the school committee to recognize that they are, in our town, and probably in all the other towns, based on their budget, the schools are 55, 56% of all the town's budgets. Not only us, we just pay a more proportionate of it, but we all are paying percentage-wise about the same. And it's the most that each budget is what is going through the school. They haven't got it through that, we want to work together, but they have to realize that we have needs too. If we have to cut something to satisfy our tax rate, they should cut something to help satisfy the tax rate. To this point, I don't think they have gotten that feeling that, we're getting a little upset with that. So the budget in itself, going forward, I've told them that we want to be more involved, that we will have a representative from Finance Committee there, and if somebody from the select board wants to be there too, just to express the fact that we're in here together. The money is coming from the taxpayers of our town. We want to make sure that it's spent wisely, and we don't want to short anybody if we don't. We don't want to short anybody. We want to make sure that our budget is covered, their budget is covered. We don't want to see excess. And some of the things that we've been hearing, like the survey, the study that they want to do, it's not going to fly. That school was designed for 700 students. I know, because I was on the building committee. And I knew we designed it for 700 students because the population was increasing at that time. They only have 250 kids in there right now. They could house every one of our students in that school. You have to do some creative architecture probably, because you want to separate the younger kids from the older kids and that. But if that's what they're going, then what that does, they close down this school, they close down Bernardston. Now we're left with a building that we have to try to reuse somehow. I don't see that happening in the near future. you know, we have a hard time trying to get a fire station. And that was, what, 12 million? They're talking about a $55 million dollar school for no reason that I can see at this point. If they can convince me, then fine,
Well,
but
that-
I'm not convinced
The
at this
feedback
point.
that I've heard is folks really like their elementary students to be able to walk to school.
I agree with you 100%. And of all the things, you really, you know, the elementary schools are kind of like the community.
Yep.
And to try to take that away, you know, Leiden unfortunately had theirs taken away. Yeah,
Warwick?
Warwick decided they didn't want to be part of the district, although some of their kids are still school choicing in.
No, they're tuitioning in.
Oh, they are. I thought they were school
won't
choicing
take
in.
the
I thought they
school
could school choice in.
Oh,
From,
no.
No, they
Tuition in?
did an agreement for tuition in, which is a whole different
For high
amount
school,
than
middle
school
school and high
choice.
school.
Like
Well,
Vernon.
Well, anyway, I mean,
Yeah.
the school budget is what it is. You know, there's unless it's voted down on the floor, and then if it's voted down, they still work through that and be assessed at monthly, and it usually at last year's assessed value, I think, or budget. So you hit my feelings on the school budget.
And we're no longer we were sending somebody out tuition and we're not doing that this year?
As far as I know, we aren't.
You're talking about the.
Tuition and
to
transport
tech
out of
school,
district.
To the Smith Vocational School.
I'm just looking at the
Yeah.
0%.
Okay.
That was
They
100%,
graduated.
we'd have to take care of that. The school doesn't take care of that, we tuition out. If there's a program that they don't offer,
That's
and this
what,
happened to be a program that was down at Smith,
Voc.
vocational down in Northampton, we had to pay their tuition
and
and
transportation.
transportation, it was around $40,000 a year.
It was
Okay.
$50-some thousand.
Oh, was
55
it?
is
Okay.
what's
Oh,
I
was it?
cut it
All
to
right.
40. Last year I was worried about because they don't really tell us
Oh,
till
yeah.
like May, but this year I'm sacrificing it because I don't think there's a student on the books.
Didn't they
So we're getting a
graduate?
little bit
We
of
did a
break
couple years ago.
Okay.
from Pioneer, PVRS, but the tech school, who came to our meetings, spent a good hour there explaining everything, telling us if we wanted to find information where we could find it. And there's good news, bad news. Good news is Northfield is sending 50 kids. Last year it was 40. Tuition for those kids are around $17,000 a year. We have 10 more going out. So the budget is up by about 170 some odd thousand dollars.
When I started in 2021, or just after the second year, there was 28 students at
Yes.
Tech, now there's 50.
Where is that here though? Because I'm not seeing
The Tech School,
Tech
FC.
school, yeah.
Franklin County Tech School Operating Assessment, 100.
Capital
FCTS.
assessment.
Yeah, yeah.
Right here.
Now it's
Yeah.
901,000.
Got it.
That's the
Yeah.
increase.
I just want the FCT.
They came through and basically showed us what they're planning on doing, how they're, some of the different programs they're doing. They look at long-term, they look at 5 years in advance and say, this is, be prepared. They're also looking, their building is now somewhere in the 50 years old. And they've upgraded it a little bit, they're adding on some things, but they're gonna be looking in the next few years to come through and they're gonna wanna add on, rebuild, or something, and it's gonna be substantial. The good news is there's 19 other towns that are be good contributed. Northfield actually pays one of the highest tuitions.
One of the largest, we
Yeah.
have one of the largest
Yeah.
group of students.
Yeah, we're like 4th on the list of how many students go there. I
I
think
think they
we,
got a new aeronautics program.
they're doing that on their own. They're not-
Mechanic,
yeah, they do.
aeronautics mechanic.
Yeah, they're building a hangar, they're doing that, it would be, it's maintenance, aircraft maintenance, and they also have a veterinary program over there. But they've done that within their budget. What they're talking about coming back to us later is they have to upgrade their facility. Their facility needs to be upgraded, and they're gonna be looking to do something there too. So these are things that when I talked about things coming up, these are things when the next 3 to 5 years, we're gonna see some requests for that. I'm hoping that the climate that is nationwide is better by then, because that worries me too, being on finance committee, whether it's a trickle-down effect coming down from the state, which would affect not all of us, I think. So we're hopefully, we won't see some of that, but I'm
So
constantly
just to
worried about
clarify,
that.
so Pioneer Valley decided not to come to the towns to pitch their budget. Franklin County
They
went
did.
to all 19 towns?
They go to all 19,
Yeah,
it's not
he
the same
does.
person, but they have sent people to all 19 towns, yes.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
And even towns with 1 or 2 people going, they send.
I gave them 2 nights, and when we were having our meetings as far as doing to come in and see us. And they said, no, you come to our meetings. And
Okay.
they basically, you know, and that just, not only, you know, us, but Bernardston, none of
Gil?
the towns.
I saw them. I saw him do the presentation at Gill because I had to go down there for.
They
a meeting.
did? Well,
Yeah.
no,
No,
you're
no,
talking
no.
tech school, who are you
The
talking?
tech school. Yeah.
Tech school, you know, we're talking Pioneer.
Oh, I'm
Because he's
sorry.
asking about
Yeah,
Pioneer.
no, we had to go
Exactly,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
So yes, not happy with that. Well, did they come last year? I don't think they came last year either.
Jordan came
Yeah,
last
they
year.
did.
They did come.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they did.
He was here.
Why they didn't come this year, they never gave me a good explanation of why they didn't come, so.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I got a question before we go on
Sure.
too far. That first line on here, Northfield Elementary School maintenance for $25,000. How does that differ from the 30 they have in their budget for that Northfield Elementary School?
It's 2 things. If they have a specific capital project, they'll submit an article for that.
This is just contracted services, 30 grand.
Where are you looking?
On line 155 of the school's
Of
budget.
their budget?
Yeah.
Oh, I-
Their budget,
That's on their budget.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If the way this was explained was this is just the general upkeep of the school for $25,000, that's what contracted
Well,
services
no,
should cover within their
the
school.
maintenance budget that we have put in, and fiscal year '24 was an unusual year for a reason, but if you go back, there was money in that school maintenance budget for years. That, they also used to put in another 10 for the carpeting. I have now merged those together and said you get one number.
And they would do it for the grounds too. We would have a budget line for
We don't do their grounds anymore.
us.
They've
They would have
taken
a
it
line
off.
too.
They've
yeah, if you
taken
look
over
back
grounds.
on, we
But that is,
do the grounds, but that was under, I believe, the,
Recreation.
We used to be, but
Yes.
it's not anymore. We don't do their grounds anymore.
he's
So
talking the elementary school, right?
we
Yeah.
don't do the elementary school
Yeah.
grounds
No.
anymore.
No, right. But now I'm talking about the
Right, so this
25
line
and the
item
30.
is for, generally speaking, they submit the invoices to me. So if they do over a carpeting in a room or flooring, they've been going room by room by room for years, tile, it's those kinds of things that don't rise to the level of a $20, $30, $40, $50,000 capital request for the elementary school. But generally speaking, they come in at several $1,000s, might be replacing a door, maybe a window got broken. It's that kind of capital expense, but is not necessarily also, now, the flooring is in here each year, they do something. But it'll come to me as we've got a door we need to replace, here's the estimates. We'll send you, I'll say, okay, looks good, send me the invoice, so $2,000 goes out. And that's the number for it to keep the building, it's like if you're a commercial landlord, certain things that we technically cover. Doors,
But he's
windows, those
talking
kinds of things.
about.
So what does their account cover in their budget?
That
for
I
30
can't
grand?
answer for you.
These are the questions we ask them.
I mean, that could be
These are
them
the
bringing
questions
in
we don't
somebody.
get significant answers to.
That could be somebody coming in to clean their furnace, I
And
don't
again,
know.
some of this is in their new agreement and how it's being taken care of. And that we're gonna talk about after we finish this. So, and again, areas where we're not in agreement. So,
Okay.
go on to EMS now. EMS, their own funding. Their wages, wages and expenses basically are, yeah. Revolving fund, they don't have anything in that at the moment, I guess, once they get situated. Budget surplus is 0, maturing debt principal 0. Total budget for the year
Where am I looking?
was $1,135,745. And again, this comes before the town, just to approve or to see what is happening, what's going on over there. We will be assessed this year. The towns, I think 4 towns will be assessed by EMS this year. That is
They were
It's
assessed.
102,778 is
Okay.
that's why it's listed as tax levy.
Oh, I see.
okay.
And
So-
now they pay, but they're paying that's for the new building. assessed because of the new, for the service moving into the new
No,
building?
you're being assessed for
For
the
the
changes,
usage?
the changes in
No.
the whole program that have
Okay.
been, that went through the process. 2 years ago, there was a big study. Last year, then, we did the implementation grant, which was to look at what's an agreement that all the towns, we needed a stable funding model. There was no administrative support, there was no redundancy, there was no capital put away for ambulances or equipment that are in the ambulances. So 2 years ago, we got a regionalization efficiency grant for planning, big report that was presented by Mike from the Collins Center. Right this year, they're working on the implementation grant, and they've been meeting, I don't know, monthly. And there is a whole agreement that's being formulated. There's been a whole funding plan that's being formulated. And that's why when Matt comes and talks about those positions were part of that. The paramedic, the full-time paramedic and EMS, EMT positions are part of that plan. There's a funding formula that breaks down on population, number of calls, or is it EQV?
No, it's not EQ.
Population and number of calls. And that
It's
funding.
half and half between your population
And the
and
number
your
of calls.
usage, basically, the number of
And
calls.
that gets done on a 3-year rolling average. So if your usage starts to go up, that will impact your assessment. And all of the towns have,
So we're paying currently, they're paying their rent for the Sandry building out of their expenses, is that correct?
Yes.
And we're the only town, so is this gonna go down when we are officially regionalized? Because we're the only town paying wages, right? Not every town is paying $800,000 in wages. Our town by town contribution is the 102,000, right? I mean,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
and Bernardston will be
Yeah.
82,400. Irving is passing 42,900 and Gale is assessed 55,700.
But then we also pay the wages.
No,
'cause
that's
I
gonna
didn't
be the
price
way.
it.
That's gonna
it's
come
all
out
part
of
of it.
The whole thing is part of it. That is put into.
Northfield doesn't have anything separate here unless you put in a special article for Northfield to pay something separately.
So
Except our
obviously, I'm not trying to
assessment.
do that, but I'm seeing here wages
That's how they create their
for
budget.
800 and expenses for 340.
Yep.
I'm not trying to argue, I'm just trying to, I've had
Yeah.
so many questions
Yeah.
about this. And then the tax levy, that's
That's the
us, that's our
assessment.
portion as a town.
Right, and all the
Correct.
other towns are paying a portion as well.
Are all the other towns paying the $795?
They're all paying based on the $1,332,967 budget.
Oh, okay.
And then
So
there's
that
the
budget,
towns.
got it, okay,
Yeah.
thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
add together the expenses and the
So our
wages. and there's a
entire
budget.
expense is 102,000?
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
778.
And they pay their own rent. When they move into our building, are they gonna pay the town of Northfield rent?
That's a town of Northfield building, they're a town of Northfield department. unless
No,
the
they're
fire-
a regional department.
No, this is not a region. This is a town of Northfield department. It is not becoming a region. So the town of Northfield owns the building, the town of Northfield owns the ambulance service. We are charging an assessment
We own
to
the
other two
ambulances.
towns to be part of an agreement that we have with them for service. This is not a region. We're not creating a region. It's a town of Northfield department.
All the
They
equipment.
pay rent from they pay rent to Sandry building,
Yeah,
right?
we do.
And were I to rent out a property, I would get rent on the use of my building. They are serving we're paying the most, right? We're paying 102.
'Cause
Does
it has-
that 102,000 show the fact that we are paying for the building and the services?
All that goes into the budget. So all those expenses contain that. And then they will pay their portion of that based on the formula.
So there's a rent, and every part of the town.
There's just an upkeep. So the town owns the building, we own the asset.
So-
Town owns it. So then there'll be expenses for heat, for upkeep, for work.
It might be helpful.
And then
it-
that will be assessed
It
to all of them.
might be helpful because we're looking at a summary level. It might be helpful to look at the individual spreadsheets that each of the departments filled out, and then you would see all of those details that you're talking about.
I mean, I have the spreadsheet with all the tabs.
Yeah, but
But it's not.
But it
this is-
adds up.
This is exactly what's on there.
yeah, and
There's
it adds
nothing
up
more.
to it adds up to the expenses.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, I have the spreadsheet that we had. It's exactly the piece of paper. So you're saying it might help to look at the spreadsheet, but I
At the
have
departmental
Here's
level.
the department budget.
the EMS enterprise fund.
Right, so all of the
Did we have that?
No, it doesn't, that's not in that particular
Okay.
spreadsheet you get does not. There is a budget, there is a page like this for every single department. It is not in that spreadsheet. It is something I send out, they fill out, they send back. They get it when they review. When they, like if EMS comes before them, I will include this and update that spreadsheet every week when they're meeting with them. And so there's 30 of these. So
They're all in the
everybody has
big
one.
spreadsheet that you send out, so you can look at.
No,
my-
there, I mean,
There is, and then there
And
is.
the only
correct.
reason why I'm saying for folks at home is, can I borrow that for a second?
There is a line item spreadsheet
Yeah.
in,
Yep,
it should be in the one you have. Did I say
I
that?
have a line item spreadsheet.
Yes,
Yeah.
open that up.
The,
yeah, then you'll see all
That's
the.
everybody's
this kind
line
of
item budget
detail.
that feeds into the omnibus.
Right,
The thing is, as far as doing it, the majority of their
Go
budget
down, it's the last
comes
one,
out
down at the
of
bottom.
the not the taxes, the insurance that is paid into them and the fees that are paid into them. Because we are part of the 4 towns, we are assessed a certain amount of money.
right.
And it was, our assessed amount was determined to be the $102,000, okay, plus. So that's our portion. We own the building. If something should happen, they go out, we can sell that building, okay? It belongs to us. That
I
building
know, but I
belongs
mean,
to us.
if a person owns a rental property, the fact that they're getting rent doesn't change the fact that they could sell the building, they still get rent.
Right.
We're paying more, already we're paying, that $100,000 is more than any other town, and I understand that's on a formula, right? Which is why I mentioned the school stuff,
Yeah.
it's on a formula of how much we use it and what our income is and all
It's
that
a
kind of
different-
stuff.
yeah, it's a different
Right, different
formula.
formula, but
Yep.
it's the same concept. And so we're paying already more than any other town, based on that. And then we're also paying,
based on, can I just
Yeah.
interject for a second?
please,
Because I don't wanna,
No.
it's not a one-for-one comparison with the school. The school's a little bit more complex and harder to understand. On the EMS, the reason why Northfield is paying 102 and Bernardston's paying whatever is because Northfield is the biggest user of the ambulance and also has the biggest population. So in that 50% population and 50% usage, we come out of all the 4, we come out as the biggest user.
right.
Just for,
So saying that those 4 are appropriately equally, not the same amount, but equally distributed, right? For the 4 towns. Then we've got Northfield also paying for the building. Is the enterprise fund paying for the
What
pilot?
do you mean by paying for the building?
We own
We've
it.
bought it, but we own it.
We own all
We
the
own
equipment
it,
too.
so,
okay.
right, so.
When they
it
buy a
should
new
be-
but if
ambulance,
you
these
live-
other 3 towns,
Well-
as part of this, pay
If
for
you
that
live in
ambulance,
your own-
but we own the ambulance.
If you live in your own
All their
rental
new
property, you don't pay yourself
defibrillators, new
rent.
backs,
right?
everything.
'Cause
We
you own them.
own everything. If they wanted to leave, they can leave. We have all
Own
that
everything.
equipment.
Every asset.
Let me
Every
see if I
asset's
can make
ours.
it easy.
This is the question
Okay,
I get
let me see if I can make
so
it
many
easy.
times.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We
I
own the
get it.
fire station. Do we rent them? Do they pay
It's a
anything for that?
volunteer thing, and they don't have an enterprise.
Okay, the library, we own that. Do we charge them rent?
No, because they're for the town. I mean,
the
these
same
people
thing.
are actively, it's a regional thing. We have agreements.
Correct.
And they're actively paying,
Yeah, and it's done for the
They're
benefit
actively
of,
paying
and they're
to
paying the
support-
pilot through their enterprise fund, correct? Because,
No,
okay,
the pilot
can
is-
we just sort through your questions?
yeah.
I'm asking about the
No, I
money
know,
of the
correct.
events.
I understand.
One by one, because I think we're all trying to explain it all at the same time, and the jumble that's coming out isn't necessarily answering people's questions if
Okay.
somebody's watching this. So can you just repeat your question if you don't mind?
Yes.
And then let's tackle that and see if that
I'm
helps.
wondering what, now that the EMS department is regional, we've acknowledged that it's regional and that people are paying into it. And Northfield is paying its fair share based on its usage and economy, as are all the others.
Yep.
Right? So everybody's paying their fair share. And then Northfield has the additional burden of the town, of the building. And I'm wondering that whether it's rent, which seems like an easier way to handle it, or whether it's a reduction of our contribution in acknowledgement of the fact that we're housing. That's what I'm asking about. I'm
We
trying to
paid it
get-
before we were regional. We paid it before we were regional.
Well,
We're gonna have to
right,
pay it
but now we're
regardless.
But let's take a step back.
Now people,
We-
that's the thing.
We're a town department that assesses people for services. Let's not get confused that
Right.
this is a regional entity. It is not. It is not.
Our last conversation, I asked when he was
We're-
here a couple meetings ago,
Right.
and I'm sorry not to point, but you guys, B and
They're using it with
Matt
a small
both
r.
said-
They're using it with a small r, not a capital R. There's no region.
It's
no,
still
there's
a
big
Northfield
difference.
department.
Because if you want to be something like South County, that's a regional entity.
And that's what I asked about. So
We are
at
not
that
South
conversation, that's
Yeah.
what you guys said, and so I've been operating on that understanding.
Okay,
So
so
we're kind of mixing and matching a little bit. So if we truly wanted to do what people are asking you about, because that's how you're representing the question,
Yes.
right? Is if we truly wanted to do that, then we would have to do the South County model and take on a regional structure that would require state approval. And if we did that, while it would be difficult, if we accomplished that, the bills going to all of the towns would be that much higher, right?
Right.
So it's like careful what you wish for. If you truly wanted a regional entity, then it's no longer under the control of the town of Northfield, where it currently resides.
Right.
And it would be in a regional entity, and then everybody would be assessed for everything similar almost to the school, to go back to that example. And all of our bills would be that much higher. And it would be more complicated because a true regional entity has to go through a couple of different options with the state. So we are regional in the sense that we have always worked together for many years. And what we're doing this year, and we've had agreements from each of the towns with Northfield.
And they paid $25,000.
And before that, they paid maybe 10 or 11 or 15, depending on which town it was.
They made a donation.
They made a donation. Bernardston made a $10,000 donation, for example. So we took that organic, collaborative, if you will, I know that's an overused word, approach, and by going through the whole grant program, we came up with coming up with a new agreement, which will be similar to all the other ones that we had before, but it'll actually have the same language for each town. And that we're talking about at the regional task force meeting on Thursday, so that will be coming before the select board soon, just FYI.
And they're all paying more money, and so are we.
And we're all paying more money. And he's actually reflected a budget based on the whole grant program that we've been in for the last 2 years. And some of that money from the grant actually offset the budget prior to this too. So we're at an inflection point, and that's, I'm just going to say to everybody, because I think we can all agree, that makes it confusing. And we bought a new building for the town, and that makes it confusing because everybody thinks it's just EMS, and EMS should be then charging, we should be charging EMS rent, which that's not how it's going to work unless, that's just not how it can work, right? They're a department. It would just be, you know, fire moves over there, which they won't because of insurance purposes, but if fire moved over there, or the highway department moves their stuff in there, it's a town building.
which is part of the plan, that they're gonna move things in there
We're
higher.
gonna have
So then we'd have
Yeah.
to pay rent for that.
Otherwise, then you'd be asking, if we follow that logic that everybody's constantly asking us about, I know because they ask me too, if we follow that logic, then we should be charging highway rent.
Well, but highway isn't an enterprise fund, and it's not regional.
It's not tied to the enterprise fund. They're all departments. And I think that's where it gets confusing too, is the enterprise fund. Because the enterprise fund, we only have two, the sewer and the ambulance. The reason why we have enterprise funds is so that we can accept revenue for those services, right? It doesn't make it a different type of department. It's a different accounting.
It's a funding mechanism.
Funding mechanism, that's
Still a
all
town
it is.
department.
They follow the same rules as the general fund, It's
Yeah.
a funding
Still a town
mechanism, that's
department.
all it is.
I think one thing that Bernie was alluding to is you have to understand that because it's a town department and the town owns the building, the other towns are being assessed for all of the maintenance, all of the capital work,
Yes.
all of the utilities, and all of the operating expenses of that building. It goes into the formula. So if you need $10,000 a year for electric, it goes into the formula.
The
And
pilot?
everyone shares that. Well, it's not a pilot, it's an assessment. We will assess the other towns their share. So there'll be a
But
formula.
the pilot will go into the assessment?
The pilot's
no
in the
pa-
budget.
There-
Are you talking about
I
the
don't know what
payment to
pilot-
Bernardston instead of the rent to Sandry?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's the assessment. We will assess Bernardston, we will assess Irving, yes. It will go into,
No,
it
the
will go.
tax, payment in lieu of taxes, so,
Oh,
because
you're
it's in a
talking about
different
the amount
town.
we have to pay
Bernardston.
Bernardston for
That goes
being
into
in
the
the building.
budget.
Yes, goes
Yeah.
in the budget and it will be assessed to all of
Yeah.
the member towns.
Okay.
yeah.
And then that budget, we assess it to all the member towns, but the town of Northfield will build the capital budget up, will buy the ambulances from all that capital money, from all those enterprise funds, which all the towns are contributing to. And every piece of equipment, every desk, every chair, everything will be owned by the town of Northfield, and if the town leaves, they get nothing. They don't have any ownership in it because it's a town department.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time to explain it.
Yeah.
I've heard so many questions on this.
Yeah,
And it's still confusing, I understand that.
it's still confusing even when you hear all the questions and you provide the answers and then you have to provide them again because it's not to your, because you're a town accountant,
Right,
right?
and it's just.
That's why I was
as an
looking at
assessor.
her because she
Yeah.
actually does accounting for
Yeah,
towns
I do
and I'm,
enterprise funds and they're
Right.
just tracked separately.
and I
that's
think
all.
people kind of glom onto the enterprise fund as something really different and somehow associated with the regional thing and it's not.
It's
Yeah.
not. Regional would be like the school, we send a check to the group, they spend it however, we never know how it's accounted for.
Yeah.
An enterprise fund, you always know what's being spent, because it goes on your regular town
Has a
warrants.
line item budget that they
Yeah, so
submit.
you'll always know what's going on.
So based on that, you just said, so the school, you were saying that you didn't, there was discussion about that $1.2 million. We don't have any say in that?
No,
Not
really.
directly, no.
No.
Indirectly,
We can
will
provide
No,
commentary,
No school choice, no.
but they
No.
make their decisions.
Yeah.
Got it.
The school
Obviously,
committee
me
makes those,
making that
yeah.
statement tonight hopefully gets around and people will understand that there's something's going on. So we, not directly can we interfere.
Yeah, and I can say, we've had discussions, not like we don't talk with the school committee. We have gone to their meetings and we have spoken to them, but ultimately the decision of how they manage the budget is up to them.
Yeah.
And we're being assessed, so similar, I think that is similar to your
Right.
question about regional. That is a true regional entity, and
But
that's
we said
not
that-
what we really want EMS to be because it's not under our
Right,
control.
because Andrew, what, we send a check 5 times a year over
Yeah.
to, and
That's
what
it.
they do with that check.
I mean, they
we
show
have
you the
no idea.
budget, but theoretically,
Yeah.
they, if you go to, to go to one of their meetings, they
Okay.
move money in
Let us
their own.
move on.
And so
to-
why are we
Okay.
Let's
voting
move
on the, we're just
What?
voting on that we're sending them the check?
Yep.
Okay.
Pretty much.
All right.
Sewer enterprise fund, which is
Yep.
pretty much self-explanatory, not as complicated per se as EMS. They have their salaries based on salary, there's collector. Their wages, operating maintenance is $291,000. They have a reserve fund, just like I explained what a reserve fund is, they'd be able to use it for that same kind of purpose. Budget surplus, I'm assuming they're taking their budget surplus and putting that away.
No, the budgeted surplus is a mechanism by which you're not inflating any account.
Oh,
But
okay.
what you're doing is, it's an amount that will be there for surplus if you need it, but rolls into the next enterprise fund.
Okay.
It's like a.
It's a mechanism in
Yeah.
which to keep your reserve fund, to keep
Okay.
it stable. Because if you
Okay.
don't, and your expenses go down one year, then your whole thing goes down, the next year your rate goes up, you go down. This is a budgeted surplus, and next year, if they don't spend any of it, it will roll into their enterprise fund certification.
Okay.
And their revenues come from their users. And as you heard earlier, as far as they're having some issues with electrical. if the electrical's out, all of Main Street is gone. You won't be able to flush your toilet, so.
Yeah.
That's something to keep it considered as far as doing that. And not only do the users pay a fee for using the sewer, they also pay town taxes. Any questions on it? Moving on, we'll try to make this the annual town meeting. If you look through here, anything that they asked, we've looked at it and recommended. A lot of this has to do with capital projects, capital requests. The first money things that we came down to were the omnibus education. Those two we've already discussed a little bit. They had to deal with. If you look at that, it gives you a glaring. Our omnibus is less than the educational portion. I explained that a little bit earlier. There was a $102,778 we talked about for the EMS. And I'm just going to go down right now in raising taxation, and then we'll go to the next column. $50,000 is in additional anticipated legal fees. We already have, the town is being taken to court on a decision that was made by one of our boards, and we have to defend. Two of our boards now? I only heard it was one.
Well, no, it's gonna be, planning board, and then there'll be an administrative hearing on the conscom.
Okay, I didn't know that one. But we need to put money, at least $50,000 aside. Hopefully that will be enough to cover the legal expenses for those two legal issues that we're having. And if you look down, we're looking at the taxation, raised by taxation is $10,655,702. And most of that, again, has to do with the schools, obviously. Moving over to free cash, this is where free cash comes into play. These are some of the areas we wanted to not have to tax the taxpayers of the town. And I'm going to go through this a little bit. We're talking a little bit about the $25,000 for the project. Is it $50,000? I thought it was 25.
No, the 25 is in the omnibus, or
Okay.
in the education portion. It used to be in the omnibus. I take that
Okay.
back.
Okay.
This is a specific Northfield Elementary School capital request like they do every year.
Okay.
And these are for cameras and an awning.
Okay. The sewer capital request, again, this has to do with the electrical. There's $150,000 that we're going to take from free cash, or use free cash, or we recommend using from free cash for the electrical issue that they're having. They will have to come up with another $150,000. I've asked them to also talk to the school, because they're one of the biggest users, to see if they would be more than willing to contribute. I don't know how that has worked out yet, but this is what we're going to be, what we are requesting to be put on as an article.
When you say school, do you mean the college?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I've been the biggest user, so, yeah. The town hall bathrooms, the ladies' room in the town hall is archaic. It doesn't conform to handicap accessibility. It is leaking. We're having some water issues there, so we're trying to address all of those with this article. And again, the Finance Committee recommends this article. The DPW is in need. This goes on one of they're looking for a plow truck and sander. This is to take the place of an aging truck that's there. He was also requesting a grader for $150,000. We discussed it with him, and he was willing to take that off the drawing board.
So,
Power
the grader.
barrier. This is a barrier that is put on when they're mowing along the sides of the road. There's all sorts of poisons. You get sumac, you get poison ivy in that. It's airborne, and they're trying to keep that away from them because, again, they get it, they get sick. Now they're losing time, so we're trying to take care of our DPW workers. Emergency service facility. We're recommending putting aside $300,000. They were requesting $500,000, and we negotiated to cut that down to $300,000. I'm going to let you explain this one because this has to do with
OPEB.
insurances. OPEB.
Yeah, we've been funding OPEB at this rate now for a number of years. It's other post-employment benefits. It's retiree health insurance. The state put out a funding ruling. I don't know. It's GASP, whatever. How do you describe it? It's accounting
It's a
principles.
recommendation, but it helps when you go out to borrow.
Yes, that you're funding essentially your unfunded liability for retirees going forward for health insurance. So the town is, I'll get the new number, 60-some%, I think, funded.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, we're pretty far along. And the idea is it's in a trust fund through the state, with a big group of a lot of them. And you get to a certain point where you have enough money that you start kicking off revenue in the investment so that your omnibus article that says retiree health insurance will go down. So it's a trade-off, and you've got to
You're getting
invest
interest
it.
from the investment?
Yes.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So based on fluctuations in retiree health insurance, the idea is at some point you're sort of self-funded by
Yeah.
putting this money away.
Do you know what percentage of that we are being self-funded?
Yeah, I gotta check it again. It was like 60% last year,
Okay.
or it's close about, but I'm gonna make a note to get that percentage. I have it. We do, every other year, we do an audit of our OPEB liabilities and responsibilities, and they'll look at the amount of money we have in and they will adjust that. It moves around because people come on and off the retiree, but there is a target that we're heading for at some point too. There's, I only think a couple towns in the whole state that are 100% funded now.
FERCog is close.
There's a couple of them.
Whole town's real close.
Yeah, some of the smaller towns have actually taken it more seriously. Some of the cities are in deep
Okay.
water.
Going to move on here a little bit. The town clerk and treasurer collector. If they get certified, there's a bump in pay, and it can be anywhere from $500 to $1,000. I know
$2,000
that
actually.
both of them are in the process of getting certification. Certification, I know for town clerk, because I've been there, is you have to be a town clerk for at least 3 years. You have to pass a very extensive test, and then you have to have continuing ed forever. So it's $500 is not a big deal as far as doing that. I opted not to do it, but every town that seems to be doing it. $500 is not a huge amount.
It's an incentive to try and keep
Yes.
them certified. Not that they wouldn't do it anyway. We have very good employees, but it's a reward for saying you've put in all this hard work to get certified and to stay certified. So
Why is it only $1,000 versus $2,000?
Again, when we sat down, looked at it and talked about it a little bit, we're trying to nickel and dime a little bit to try to keep the costs down. One of the things that the town clerk gave up is the town sign. In talking with her, is at this point in time, we're looking at the future and we're trying to save some money. And all these other areas
Yeah.
seem to be things that were needed. So we reduced some things, asked a few people to look at their capital project or capital equipment and maybe forego it. We're trying to save as much money as we can, but not shorting some of the other areas that are actually needed. Areas that are funded that we don't have a lot of control over are the CPA annual funds. It looks like $28,000 is what they'll get this year. They had some requests. Historic Society is looking for $14,000 for heating, and actually it's environmental. The building, the historic building is up there, has a lot of antiques in it, a lot of paper in it. And I believe the
This
thing
is
was they
heating
wanted
and
to try to keep it
It's heating
a
and
little bit
cooling.
It's
climate
heating and
controlled.
cooling.
It's
That
mini
building
splits.
doesn't have anything in it. Then it's closed during the winter, so it's a real concern
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Maintaining.
Well,
Yeah.
trying to keep the
Yeah.
humidity level down.
Exactly.
The big deal
Yeah.
as far as doing that. Hobo Falls Conservation Area. I'm gonna have you speak on that because I know you a little bit more about that than I
A
do.
little bit, it's a survey. This is paying for a survey for that property.
Survey and legal, right? And what you don't see here, and will get probably added into these numbers, is, because I just got an email today and they're talking about, Kim Levitch, who's doing the survey, a request for an article for the donation. It's to donate the land to the town. But I said, I can't put it in until you give me the legal description and all that, because the town can't accept it until they know what it is. So there'll probably be an article added in there that you don't see yet, but won't have any money attached to it. It's just the town has to accept the property.
We're getting a gift, and
Yes.
the
Oh, okay.
contribution that we're
We
making
have to
to that
accept the
gift
gift, yeah.
is
Helping to
to
offset
engineering, help
the
them draw it
cost
up.
of the.
I'm just not familiar with this one at all, so
Legal
it's
costs
helpful
and
if we
potential
just,
survey.
yeah, okay, we're, got it. Okay.
Next is the center cemetery repairs, $25,000.
2,500.
Yeah.
You could do some serious repairs with 25,000.
Nice.
Zero.
You want me to speak on it, or do you want to speak on it?
It's simple.
Okay, so if you're familiar with Center Cemetery, it's the oldest one of the oldest cemeteries in town, and there are some neglect that has been going on over the years, and a group of people from town have gotten together and started cleaning them. They have cleaned, I think, over 200 stones so far last year. The process is done the same way they do Arlington Cemetery, so they use a chemical. I don't even think it's a chemical because it doesn't harm the stones, and it actually, once they clean them and spray it, it continues to clean them. They're anticipating trying to do more next year, or all of them. And in the meantime, what they're finding out is there's a lot of history. There's a lot of people that are living there, or not living there. But there's a lot of history that's involved in that particular cemetery. And I think one of their things going in the future is to try to document some of the people that are buried there, because there are people that go back to 1730
Yeah.
and 40. And it's amazing, once they clean up these stones, how awesome they look.
yeah.
So they're doing a pretty good job.
Well,
so.
we owe a big thanks to Lindsay and Sandy for that, so.
The other thing that's coming up here is short-term rental tax. We talked about that, and we actually put something out there. I don't know if you've got it, but
Yeah.
you sent it. If you want to get that, and we did a little research, and the research that we came across, there's of the towns that are adding the tax to the tax rate. Or it's not even a tax rate, it's assessed from the people that are using the B&B or the Airbnb, they pay that tax.
Like if you go to a hotel, there's a
Yeah,
tax
hotel.
that's always added
So
on.
if for some reason the school puts up a hotel, then we can assess them, or the town can assess them. And the going rate is 6%. So adding a 6% tax to that facility, and it's a user. So if somebody wants to come in, stay in a B&B, they pay. It's done every time you go out to any kind of a hotel. You're paying an extra tax on there. So that's just a way of trying to get some more revenues into the town without affecting the town. Now, there are some people that say, well, that's going to affect my business. But I don't think that is an issue, because people who want to come and stay in the B&B are going to pay.
It's a
as far
pass-through
as
tax.
it's part of doing business. They understand it, and
And the
they
town
pay
passed the meals and excise tax.
yeah,
years
we're
ago.
doing that now. We're doing a mill tax now. So I asked Gail.
I just went into the mass.gov/DILS, pulled up occupancy tax, went in, checked off all the towns in Franklin County, and there's like about 2/3
Yeah,
of the
yeah, more
towns
than
that
I have the list
tax
too.
in Franklin County.
Ashfield, Bernardston, Buckland,
Yeah.
Charlemont, Coleraine,
And
Concord.
they've been paying this tax since 2009. A lot of these. Some of them are just coming back. Just started. The last one was Ashfield in 2023, and Ashfield's a very small town, so they're looking to try to get some revenues out of some of these buildings. We don't have a lot of industries in our town.
So to be clear, our business owners aren't paying this tax.
Business owners do not pay the
It's
taxes.
The people who come through and pay, there's an added
Excuse
tax.
me, yeah,
Yeah.
the person coming to
Just like
stay at
the
that
state
particular
tax.
place, yeah, yeah. They're paying
Like a
it
sales
just,
tax.
just like when you go into a restaurant or go into Mims and buy coffee. They can throw a, what is it, 2-point-something%, or they just figure.
The meals
yeah,
tax.
The
Yeah,
meals
similar to
0.5%,
that.
0.25%. So,
So are you recommending the 6%?
we recommend doing it.
Yeah,
We didn't give a percentage amount, but
Okay.
since we have a quorum here, I will
okay.
entertain a recommendation.
I, Gail Weiss, make a motion for a 6% occupancy tax for the town of Northfield.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying yes or no. Dan Campbell says yes.
Dee McCarthy, yes?
Robin Netterman, yes.
Gail Weiss, yes.
Can you just,
So that's a short-term occupancy, because you said occupancy.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
local-
sure,
it's a
sure,
local option room
Yeah, it's not,
occupancy excise
if you're
tax.
renting no, if you're moving into an apartment here in town, it's not that.
I just wanted to clarify, because you
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
okay.
It's,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
when you go to an Airbnb
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a few days or whatever.
I have the old one, and I'll have to get the updated language. I haven't submitted the warrant to the
Okay.
lawyer, but the old
Okay.
one said anything rental under 90 days,
Okay.
There you go. That's, yeah.
Yeah.
short-term occupancy.
so like a campground, for example?
Well,
Can we
yeah.
back- can we do it, Deidre?
It would be Airbnbs, it would be B&Bs. Now,
rent.
what I foresee as far as, there's a lot of Airbnbs that are probably just doing it, but this gives us the authority to say, oh, you're an Airbnb, you gotta pay the 6% tax, or you have to charge your people the 6% tax. So, because a lot of the Airbnbs are not really regulated, whereas a B&B is really regulated.
Right,
So,
yeah.
And the
not to
state,
like a lot of regulations, but
and once
that's it.
you're in there, I know, you can get lists from the state on who's registered and,
Yeah.
yeah.
And when you looked at the list,
Mm-hmm.
was it mostly the towns in Franklin County, were they mostly going for the 6%?
Yeah, they all-
Okay,
all
okay,
accept-
Every single one of them
All right.
6%,
okay.
every single one.
And do we need to put extra language in for the campground? Because there was
No.
some.
That's
That's a rental.
rental for less than 90 days.
Okay.
It meets that criteria,
Okay.
so.
Yeah, you made it sound like it wasn't included, but it is included.
Yes.
That's-
Yes.
Yeah, I'm
It's a
not
short-
being
Well,
facetious.
anything you're renting for 90 days is fine.
Okay,
That concludes pretty much what we're talking about, not only in the articles, but also in our budget. I know that we were here also, let me just see if there's anything else here. There's one last page. One last page, it's the summary. We'll go over this real quickly because we went over most of these things. But if you go down and you look at the last column, is what was recommended by the Finance Committee. If you go down through, you'll see to the very right, the difference between FY '26 and FY '25. If you go down further, you'll see the difference that has to do with revenues. Our revenue's gone up a little bit. The difference in taxes, again, the difference in taxes is we don't have all of the information from the state. It might change slightly. This is close to what we figured it would be. You're looking that if everything that we had passes, we're looking at an increase of 0.326. And if you looked at, we are far under the levy, which is what we try to do every year.
I just want to point out that although you're looking at all the expenditures and you're looking at all the differences, a couple of things to note that are big budget drivers, but are really nothing we can do about. If you look up at the top, the last line says overlay.
oh, yeah.
That is a $150,000 increase in the request from the assessors for overlay for next year. That is not an article, it's not voted on, it goes straight onto the tax levy. And that is money that they have to have in their overlay account for abatements, exemptions. Every time anybody files for any of that, that's the pool of money that they draw it from. So The town has to replenish that, and we just had a huge case that was settled this past year at
The town or the state?
the
Did
town.
we have to pay Eversource like
No, we
First
had,
Light?
yes.
Yes,
$300,000
yes.
or something?
89,000.
No, that was the interest.
That's just the interest.
No, we
Oh,
paid them, we paid
Get
them.
it back plus.
Yeah, we had to pay so the assessors came up with a tax assessment, they had a whole evaluation, and then they took them to ATB, Appellate Tax Court. And court came back with a judgment in the middle to some degree. So that means that the town has to then, because we've been sitting on it from 2021, 2022, because that's how long it takes to go through the appellate process.
Oh,
Had to pay them the difference back, because we've been sitting on their tax money, theoretically, and we have to pay them the interest, because we've technically had their money. It's a statutory amount of interest, it's like 14%, outrageous. And if you look back on your annual town meeting article, you'll see way at the bottom, because it's not an article, interest to ATB core settlement, $89,000. So they had to pay them back and $89,000. So if you add the $150,000 and the $89,000 together, you'll see that a good third of the increase that we're going to put on the tax rate next year has to do with that and
With
not
First
with
Light.
budget.
Why did they get abated? Why were they awarded an abatement?
Because it's a huge, complicated, I mean,
it's a
it's
technical
a
assessment.
very technical assessment.
They do it to every town.
Oh, they do, and they've already
Every
sued,
town.
they've already sued for the next year, they file every year. So what she's trying to do is work out, because for the previous 3 years, we had an agreement with them. You pay this this year. So they're already reaching out to them to say, okay, let's come up with a 3-year or 5-year agreement again with standardized, because it doesn't make sense for us to continue to go to court. We have to pay interest, we have to pay our legal fees. It's better to settle with them and set an amount than it is to go through that hassle every single year.
So
Ask Irving,
Wait, to be clear, we assessed them the proper amount, they contested it,
Yes,
and therefore,
anybody can attest their assessment. As a
Oh my
homeowner, you can contest your assessment,
so
it's by law.
under what rule, I'm sorry, this may be too deep, but I'm just shocked. Under what rule can they say, you assessed us properly, now give it back?
No, they go to court and they say, we don't agree with their assessment, and it goes through tax court with lawyers.
And tax court, if tax court agrees with them, then don't we need to change our assessment model? I mean, if we're not able to,
You hire, it's not an assessment model. For something this complicated, you hire a specialist to do an assessment. This assessment costs the town quite a bit of money, and they're very professional, and they do multiple towns. But no matter what you're gonna come up with,
They're
they're
still
gonna
gonna
appeal it.
contest it.
Because they always wanna get a lower amount. So they fight it every year.
that just, it's like,
And they
So-
have the pockets
Doesn't
to
seem
do it.
fair, but
no.
I know. So anyway, so I just wanted to point out. Yeah, they do. So I just want people to understand that a third of that, right off the top, is that, and it's not like we expended something or the budget's gone out of control, but that's something
Okay,
we
that's
have to
helpful.
do it. We don't really have any choice to do that. So
any other questions on the budget?
Well, people are gonna see at the meeting, this may be for Andrea, the cherry sheet numbers. Can you just briefly tell everybody what the cherry sheet is?
well, we only have the governor's cherry sheet numbers at this time, so that's kind of like everyone goes, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
But we're waiting for House
Correct.
to set up the cherry sheet. So the governor's number is pie in the sky.
But what is the cherry sheet? What is it?
For the cherry sheet?
Explain it, yes.
Oh, yeah, because the cherry sheet is essentially the local revenue, so mostly consisting of unrestricted general government aid, which we call UGA. But that's most of what we get. There's a small piece that goes to libraries, there's a small piece, we also get
And
assessed.
then in lieu of land.
Pilot. Pilot comes in on that. So it's essentially state revenue to us. The biggest piece being the unrestricted general government aid, which is a number that, gosh knows how many years it took to get where it is, and then there's some percent increase every year that's put out by the legislature. Generally speaking, that's supposed to be tied to a revenue consensus number based on what they see happening with the tax rate. They have their own formula. So,
Yeah.
but they can be any number they pick. honestly.
Yeah. And then you also have the return of the abatements and the exemptions, well, the
Right.
exemptions, not the abatements, the exemptions. Senior exemptions, the state will reimburse us a certain percentage.
So
Veterans.
cherry sheet is income to the town.
Yeah.
Correct,
Correct.
correct.
That's what you see under the
They
revenue,
used-
so the cherry sheet.
Then there's
receipts.
assessments.
They literally used to come on pink sheets.
Small
That's why they're called cherry
Yes.
sheets.
And here we have one today.
Yes, that's your cherry sheet. Yeah, and then there's a few assessments like local
There's air pollution.
air pollution in the
Are
local.
you impacted by transportation?
There's a small one to
Yeah.
FRTA, yeah.
And then whatever the collector puts on for warrants, the deputies usually, whatever.
Yeah, we don't have that
they
too
put
often,
in.
but, and I do subtract off of the cherry sheet the library offset, because that goes directly to the library, we can't count that in general revenue. That's it.
So when I was saying the tax rate, we don't actually know what it is. We hope it's gonna be about that, or possibly less.
It's
Uh,
usually less, because I estimate the revenues.
And we're hoping
comfortably
for
high.
that to happen. So we're still looking at a slight increase in their taxes. The problem that people forget is every time somebody sells a house for $100,000 more than what it's worth, everybody's value goes up. And it goes up every single day. It's
I did
not
my
like
part.
yeah. So that people do not understand, because they think that they get reevaluated every 3 years, and that's not correct. They get evaluated all the time. Tax rate is always basically, if your value of your house goes down, your tax rate will go up. If your value of your house goes up, your tax rate goes down. It's what the town needs to run their town, and that's what we have just done here. We've given recommendations. You're going to put it on the town warrant. The taxpayers of the town on our annual town meeting will look at and pass or not pass the budget. If they don't, then we go back to the drawing board and say, okay, who do we cut? How many, what services we cut? In the towns, and it would be very difficult to cut anything on the town budget without losing a lot of either people or we're the hardest ones at that. That being said, if there's no other questions, we're gonna go on to the other half that we were talking about, and that would be the
I did want
agreement.
to, I know you didn't talk about them as money articles. Does anybody have any quick questions on the local finance option tax title, or the FERCog charter revision? We haven't gotten that yet, but it's a placeholder.
And do you have copies of the agreement? Because I don't have one.
The regional
I
agreement?
don't have the
Oh,
agreement
no.
here with me.
No, it's,
Oh, I thought he was gonna.
No. Well,
Can I just,
Went out to the.
let's get this done first.
Oh,
and then we're gonna-
I see.
Okay, let's get,
What are we
because
talking
I sent you quite a bit, sent you quite a bit of literature about the tax title foreclosure process and the local option to adopt the funding. I don't think it's complicated, I mean, it's complicated, but it is if the town votes it. It's basically it's a change in the procedure by which we can try to hold on to the excess that happens during the foreclosure. Otherwise, by law, it goes to the state. So,
But that's business down below. Are we gonna talk about it now?
well, yeah, okay, well, that's, I just want to mention it's on your warrant, so people will know.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can I just do a time check on, we have an agenda, plus we have all of this. So from a schedule standpoint, when does the warrant, because we have another meeting and it's April, I'm just looking ahead.
Yep.
Because we've gone over quite a bit tonight. So if we have aspects of it that we want to go over again, are we going to be reviewing the warrant at the next meeting?
Yes,
Okay,
because you technically
April
have.
1st.
okay.
Yes, you have to sign it at your meeting on the 15th.
So we might
Well,
not
the
have
proposed to
questions
sign on the 15th. By the 22nd, it must legally be signed and posted.
By
But the
the-
1st.
by April 1st?
By April 22nd.
Oh, okay.
But you don't have a meeting that night. You could have a special meeting. That's why,
No, I'm just looking ahead to the
Yep.
next meeting based on the amount that we've discussed and still have to discuss. And I just wanted to make sure that we have some cushion, so to speak, in the schedule so that anything that seems problematic and requiring more discussion, hopefully not past 9 o'clock tonight, would be at the next meeting.
I'm gonna hopefully have a draft warrant
Okay,
and any other budget
I just wanted
questions
to
at that
double check.
time,
okay.
so that you can look at that over.
At the April 1st meeting?
At the April 1st.
Yeah, I'm just, yeah. Time management, yeah.
April Fool's Day is not a great day to
So,
budget.
okay, so you,
Yeah.
you talked, tax, title, are you?
Well,
feel
that's
comfortable
later,
with that? You can
that's
talk about it
later in the
okay.
budget, they can talk more.
All right, so Pioneer Valley Regional Agreement. We've been discussing this forever. And we've got together with the other three towns. And it was select board members, finance committee members of the three towns. And we've gone over their proposal. They have gone through, they've done a draft. We took their draft and had it sent out while the towns decided to have our legal person look at it and then send it back to us so we can discuss it. The three towns have not gotten back together yet. We are set for April 3rd to sit down and go over that. They wanted an answer. They wanted to have these finance committees and select boards, basically the finance committees because we were there, to look over their proposal or look over their agreement and say, yeah, we agree with it. We haven't had a chance to look over it with legal. Which brings us to the fact that it's already on the warrant.
Well, they haven't submitted the final version, but they will.
Okay, so here's the deal. The last meeting we went to, their whole purpose was this is what we're gonna have, you're gonna put it on your warrant. Okay? And I said to them, well, we haven't had a chance, at that time, our lawyer hadn't had a chance to see it and hadn't answered some of the questions that we had concerning the agreement. We won't have that until the 3rd. That doesn't give enough time, I don't think, to have them come back to the towns, have meetings with the towns. They think their meetings they televise it from the library, and that's what they consider, I think, they're getting it out to the community. No, I want them to come to us, either bring this over to the school or come to our town, come here, explain it to us, all right? There's one bone of contention we have that we're gonna look at. Pretty much is kind of okay, but there's one capital project. We wanna separate capital projects from their budget. They wanna put capital projects in their budget. You do that, okay, I got a capital project in here, $150,000 this year. Well, that's part of my budget now. So next year, it's still part of my budget. So we're not too keen on that. And the history of that is, I think I've been in 25 or so many years on finance committee and coming to town meetings, that any kind of capital projects that the PVRS was doing, or the school committee was doing, was always separate. So we had a chance to look at it and say, okay, yeah, that's good. Or say, no. What they want to do is hook it to the budget, be it part of the budget. If we vote it down, it votes down the whole budget. So my whole question was okay, supposing the budget was this, we said, okay, we're going to pass that budget, but if we do this is going to put us over 2.5 override, so we're not going to pass that budget, okay? So the town that says no has to pay it. If the other two towns say yes. So and I explained to them, and we had Bernardston there too, and we said, no, this is getting it's too soon for our annual town meeting to be able to really look at that. And we are now going to have a fall town meeting. We're going to plan that. That would give more time to look at it, more time for it to bring it out to the community so they can look at it and see if it was accepted. The other thing is, there's another proposal that's out there, the 6th town project.
May I interrupt though?
Sure.
Are you saying that you're requesting that it not be on the warrant?
You can't, it has to be on the warrant.
Okay.
If we don't have enough satisfaction, but I don't think we can, I would say that we would pass over that article and pick it up at another town meeting, either the fall or the next annual town meeting. We've been working on this for over 8 years. Okay, we've had committees that looked at it and went through the old proposals, went and looked at it and spent months looking at it. Presented it to the school committee, and then they took it and they morphed into what they felt was okay. We had questions that, from Department of Education and the Department of Revenues to see which works out. We go by Department of Revenue, they go by Department of Education. So that's one of the things that our lawyers were looking at to see, do they jive? How's it working? And it's been really good that we've had select board and finance committees getting together and looking at this issue. And I think what has come out of this is we all agree that we are looking to have them listen to us, for one. And it doesn't seem that they are. And I think that the last time that when they did this, they were hurrying it through to get it on the annual town meeting, and hopefully they would get people in it to pass it.
So
It's
what is the
incomplete.
effect?
It's
What is the
incomplete.
effect if we choose to go over it? What's the effect on the schools
If what?
and our
Nothing.
kids that are in the schools?
Nothing at the moment, no. That's just, it's an agreement how the schools are run, and it has nothing to do with the budgets or anything like that. It just has
What's the-
legalese as to, how the towns contribute, how you vote for people.
I thought you
to
were
get school
talking about
committee.
the school budget,
No,
pulling
no,
the
no,
school
no, no,
budget
no.
out.
this is-
Right, but it also
But it does
affects,
affect the budget. It does affect the budget.
Will affect the
later on.
budget.
Yes, it affects the budget in certain ways. But if nothing happens, we're still the same. Right now, we do exactly the same. Their
And
budget would pass.
they
They
have
pass
money
their
to
budget. Yeah,
do
Yeah, the way they
school
want
They would never.
accounts and
They would never
everything.
have the money not to run
Okay.
their programs. What would happen if we don't pass, now, two things, okay, the agreement and the budget. If we don't pass the budget, okay, they still operate, but they operate at 1/12. We have, every month, they would get a check, and it's based on previous years. So they would have to adhere to that. They've done that before, we've done that in the past. They had, 3 years ago, when they went into almost receivership, that they had to do that.
But that's not solely Northfield's, because we have three different towns.
Two different
all
towns besides us, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so all three different towns, or two of the towns would have to vote the same way for either of those things to happen.
We were, how many years ago did we were the town that voted against it. This was like 8-10 years ago. And we had to do, no, it was actually 12 years ago. We had to go to an override. We had to override our budget in order to pay the bills because we were forced into doing that. That's when the towns weren't really getting along together and we just kind of worked against each other. Now we're working with each other. The select board, finance committee are working with each other to present a solid front for the school committee. And I
And the
recommended it.
goal is, just for
Our
the people
goal is-
listening, the
Our goal is to come up with a budget that is acceptable. They look at what we have for a budget, we see what they have for a budget, and try to, something that will work so that, one isn't
Budget
super
or an
expensive.
agreement?
That's what I'm, that's.
Oh,
The district agreement.
agreement, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We were talking two things.
Is it,
Because
can we
they're
just,
actually, they are hooked together.
Yeah.
Okay. The agreement is, if it goes into effect, we can't do it, it's reviewed every 5 years. So we want to make sure we don't mess up. And there are a few sticking points, and a lot of them had to do with that one particular issue.
Capital
Yeah,
spending.
if we can get past that, we would probably look at it. But the other part of that is there is another option out there too. If we take one, we would not be able to look at the other. So we may want to look at both options and see which benefits us the best as a town.
You're
So-
talking about the 6-town agreement.
Yes, I haven't seen anything with that yet, but it's out there. They're still working on it. And
they're
I think
targeting the fall. They're targeting the fall. They,
So well, that's another reason why they probably want to get it on the annual town meeting in the first place and get it there before they did. But
Well-
I want to see both of them.
if we just, I think if we just sum it up, and correct me if I'm wrong, there are elements in the district agreement that the school committee put together. So they feel they're done.
Sure.
They put elements in there that we have not agreed with the entire time
Correct.
that I've been involved, which has been a couple of
Still
years.
there.
They're still in there because they're relying on DESI advice, even though DESI doesn't have the final, is not an approval authority in a legal sort of way, is my understanding. So there's still but nevertheless, the three towns have been going ahead and putting back we're uncomfortable with this piece, we're uncomfortable with this is how we would like, is particularly capital.
Yep.
Capital is a
Yep.
sensitive topic for
Yep.
taxpayers and for finance committees. And they so far have said, no, we don't want to adjust our language at all. Correct? Am I correct
Pretty
so
much,
far?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the fact of the matter is, we don't, whatever goes on to the warrant, we have not arrived at a
Consensus.
consensus, right, exactly, like a contract. We have not arrived at an end point that the three towns and the school committee agree on, right? And yet, we want to stick it on the town meeting that's coming up in 2 months and expect everybody to understand it, correct?
But
Yeah.
Dan
So
said that
even-
it has to be on the.
Right.
No, it has to be on the town, it has to be on, because they are,
But you don't have to approve it.
we don't have to prove it, or, and I already
Well,
talked to
this
them
is
about
going to be
this.
confusing
I already
either
talked, the
way.
last time we did, I said,
Yeah.
okay, if we're not completely okay with this, as far as doing that, and we don't have a warm and fuzzy feeling about this,
Well, we're not
we're gonna
done.
pass on this, and they said, yeah, go ahead and do that. So they understand.
This being, sorry, it's just
The regional
the
agreement.
regional agreement, but the budget
Budget
is
is
separate.
totally different, yeah.
Got it.
Budget
I'm
is a
talking
different vote.
the
Yeah,
regional
I know, but
agreement
I'm
is-
just trying to-
The regional agreement is what I
Yeah, I hear
suggest, if we don't get enough information, we pass over. Okay,
Pass over meaning
take it up later.
Defer.
somebody has to raise that as a motion, correct, at town meeting?
Yes.
Okay, and then the town would have to understand why we're passing it over. So we are, my concern is we are continuing, regardless of how we feel about it and what our recommendation is, we are putting basically a confusing proposal in front of folks that would need to be explained, even if we say we want to do a motion to pass over, still going to be confusing.
No, no,
Particularly
no.
with the length of stuff that we've got, that we're going to be putting in front of folks.
Well, the thing is, I don't think they
So-
have enough, there is not enough time to take that agreement.
Yeah, I think
To
we're
take it
all-
out to the communities, to
Yeah.
explain it to the taxpayers of each town, to say how this is good for the community
And-
in a month and a half. for
But
one.
the only sticking point is the capital spending?
No, there's
No,
a whole list of
There's a
questions.
whole list, but that's the big one, that's the
It's in
biggest
an
one.
email to the select
The
board.
biggest
You
one.
received
There's
it.
an email.
Oh, I didn't.
There's a
Yeah,
lawyer's
take a
opinion.
look, because it's actually helpful. There's like 6 different items that have been there for quite a while. My other question was, because this wasn't our thinking a year ago, is how is it, under what law, or is it under the current agreement that the school committee gets to put forth a district agreement for the 3 towns onto the 3 towns
He
warrants?
answers that question in the email. Why
Okay,
they
I
have
didn't
to
see
take
that.
it from them.
Yeah,
It's in his email.
yeah.
Is it because, but for
Because-
folks at home, is it because that was something we agreed, the towns agreed to long ago? with
No,
this?
It's
I think
because
it's under
they're
Mass
a-
General Law.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Mass General Law,
All
and
right.
because they're a regional school district, and they would submit it.
Well, no, he
and-
says, as previously discussed,
Yes.
the language of the existing agreement requires the select board to place the committee's version of the agreement on the town meeting warrant.
So it's agreement?
Period.
Yeah, it's not Mass General Law then?
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah,
but it
so,
does talk about.
so is that in the current agreement?
That's what he's saying.
yep,
I mean, is it in the new agreement that they've put forth?
What part? Is-
That
I
it
don't
would
recall.
always,
I'd have to
I
reread it.
think you have to put edits for
I
it.
think it would be in, it would probably be the old and the new. It would, because they wouldn't have pushed it as they did if it wasn't, they didn't have it backed up.
I think we're gonna have to go over
When
this
was that
again,
sent
but
Oh, definitely.
Was that just right
if you're
now?
taking a recommendation right now, I don't think we're done.
Well, again, there's a meeting on the 3rd.
Right,
I'm planning on going to it. I kind of speak up a lot in it, but Jane is the one that is kind of spearheading everything. I sent her a thing today explaining my feelings on it, and my feelings at this point would be to pass over.
Absolutely.
And again, I would be more than happy to explain that on town meeting if you want.
yeah, I just think we need to discuss it because it's going to be confusing, and I don't want people to feel that we're not supportive of education, because when we had discussions before that were televised, there was quite a bit of uproar about, you know, those nasty finance committees and select boards were not whatever with the school
Well-
committee. But the fact of, I mean, in a nutshell, my take, not my feelings, my take is the document is not done and there's not enough time for people to review it and understand it. And if it passed, what is the length of time that we would be signing up for?
5 years.
5 years.
Well, that's the review,
That's the review
but it's a
every 5
longer
years.
than 5-year agreement.
Yeah.
Right, so it's a long-term agreement that I want to simplify, you know, 2 to 8 years worth of discussion into some critical notes for people so that it's clear where the select board and finance committee stands for Northfield. I think that would be helpful. Otherwise, it really is quite detailed and confusing for the average person who doesn't dive into these on a regular basis. And I think the third point in the nutshell description would be that there's a timing issue in that the towns voted in 2020 or 2019 to do the sixth town, and that's going to be reported on in the fall. So why shouldn't all of the towns and all the townspeople be able to look at both recommendations and make their own decisions, and then understand how both of those proposals affect budgets, you know, to Sarah's point earlier. That is how, and your point of it does tie to budgets because it signs us up for funding schools in a particular way, particularly capital, right? So that to me would be the third point that I would put out
Well,
there.
the thing is, we want to make sure
And
there
leave
is
out
full
the-
protections for the town.
Yeah.
And since the towns are the ultimate,
Well, look at the size of the
paying.
budget and understand when you're making a multi-year agreement, you want to understand what you're signing up for because you're going to be asked to do something like $5 to $6 million a year, right? So
Yeah.
on 3 towns because Warwick's no longer there.
so rather than spending a lot more time on this
Yeah.
tonight,
We've
I'd
got-
be more than willing to come back one of your next meetings, or if you want to come to the
Yeah, I
meeting
think
on
you
the
should.
3rd to see for yourself how it's going, because that would be the select board of, not all the select boards of all the towns, but, and finance committee, and see what our lawyer has said. I've looked through it. There's some things that I'm not 100% okay with, but I'm not a lawyer either.
It doesn't matter, we're not done.
So I want to get more information, and the biggest thing is there's not enough time between now and.
Yeah, we're not done
and
and there's not enough time. It's not just something you just,
So I will come back unless you
Roll
guys
on
get
through.
enough information on your own. I don't want to hold
That'll
you
be
up
good.
because you got a lot of stuff going on tonight, so
yeah, no, thank you.
Will
And
a lawyer be at that meeting?
we asked them to
I've asked
be
them, they
there.
have not, Jane has not been clear with me
Okay.
yet as to whether or not
So
they
that's-
want him there or a call, so I have not sent him the date yet.
I think
she
it
needs to
was the 3rd.
solidify.
Did you not get?
It is, but Jane has not been clear to me whether or not she feels he needs to be there.
I think
So I
it should
haven't
be.
responded.
Is there any other, anything else that we need to discuss? Otherwise, I'll ask for an adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Dan Campbell says, yeah, aye.
Lindsay McCarthy, aye.
Great, thank you.
Aye.
Gail Weiss, aye.
If anybody's taking minutes, it is 9:48.
Okay.
Now that's 8:48.
Thank you.
Somebody has actually, look at, yeah, I'm reading the clock wrong. I'm reading the clock wrong.
Could you send me, I just checked my email and I just didn't get it, it must have missed me somehow.
Yeah, it will say
I'll
draft.
have to find it.
the
Yeah,
legal one?
I sent the legal one. I'll find it.
I mean, but I'm looking at my town email and I don't see it.
Also, what our lawyer said too, right?
That's
So
what
we
she
can get
wants.
both, right?
Yeah.
That's what she wants.
Both.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. That was helpful.
You're welcome. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Yippee.
review and approval of minutes from 3/4/25.
Oh, I move that we approve the minutes from March 4th, 2025.
Second.
Anybody find anything glaringly wrong? Or-
No.
No? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay. Should I read this memorandum of understanding?
No, I think you guys.
I wasn't here.
If you want to just move through it quickly, you do have the meeting on April 1st. I just want to make sure in case anybody had any questions before it shows up on the warrant. This Assessors Council on Aging Senior Tax Work-Off Memorandum of Understanding this is an update to a law that, to an adoption that the town adopted in 2015. So the town adopted this statute in 2015 to create this program. Only one person has ever used it in that time. But this would update the language, removing the old hourly wage, because they put an hourly wage in there and tying it more loosely to minimum wage, or instead of it being, $8 or $9 an hour until 2040. And some other things that they made a little more general so that it's more changeable going forward. It was very rigid, and therefore I think led to the point where people weren't using it. So
There's a senior tax
Yeah, we've
assistance
discussed
program.
this.
yeah.
Yeah,
So still, there's a maximum that will be allowable each year under the passage. And the Council on Aging assessors, they've met, they've discussed the projects, they've updated the process and the application. And the assessors have accounted for this potential maximum in their overlay request.
so eventually we have to vote to have me sign this.
Yeah, you can do it tonight. This is the
Oh, I think
request
this is a
that-
no-brainer, isn't
It
it?
is a
Yeah.
no-brainer.
Okay, thank you. I move that we approve and ask the chair to sign the Assessors/Council on Aging, Senior Tax Work Memorandum of Understanding.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I said I just.
Yeah, it's all dry in here.
Okay.
The next one, again, I'll make it quick. I gave you a lot of literature on it.
Yes.
So I just basically to explain it, due to recent amendments at the federal level, at the Supreme Court decision, states have to update their law regarding tax title foreclosure process and handling of funds. So now, it used to be, you sold something, say they owed $1,000, you sold it for $2,000, the town got to recoup their $1,000 and keep the $1,000. Now you have to understand, there's a very lengthy process. It takes the town years to take these through land court, to actually advertise, reach the abutters, reach the family members. It's not like the town does this willy-nilly. It's a lengthy process.
Right.
But
And there's cost associated
oh
with
yes,
those.
and interest that's allowed to accumulate. So the particular case that took it all the way to the Supreme Court is not generally what happens in small towns. That was a known person. The town took it, sold it, and didn't give her the back extra proceeds. That is not what happens in small towns. There's a number of technical changes in the law that have to happen regardless of whether or not the town accepts the statute. So the states already changed their law. Changes happen to interest rate, payment agreements, the taking process itself, the selling of property after foreclosure, all of those things have changed under the state law. So current law requires the town to turn excess proceeds that may exist after the sale of a foreclosed property over to the state. The state will have a fund. Theoretically, if someone comes down the pike in 10 years and wants to claim it, the
So,
proceeds will be sitting somewhere at the state level.
so in a nutshell, we
Can't imagine.
want to do this because in a foreclosure, if we don't accept this, then the money would go to the state
Correct.
instead of the town.
Instead of the town.
So that's why we want to, so do we need to do something?
I just wanted to
Tonight?
inform you it's going to be on the warrant, so
Right.
that you understand it.
So we could talk more about it at the
Right,
next
and you
meeting
will have
if need be.
you have the handouts to give you more specific.
But this sounds like I'm just looking at everybody else, this sounds like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I want people to understand, the town's not going to run around foreclosing on people. This is a very unusual situation. But
In the
we're,
rare
well,
circumstance.
we will be facing it at town meeting, so.
Okay. We'll be facing what, a foreclosure?
No, the 6 to 7 properties.
Oh, yeah, okay, let's not, yeah.
No, the town, the foreclosure, don't be confused by the word foreclosure. The town doesn't generally foreclose.
Right. I
Usually
know.
it's through a tax taking and title, so.
Okay. Community Planning Coordinator classification, did we get that done?
The people who sent me theirs agreed on a grade 6.
Oh,
Grade 6?
Sorry.
That's okay. It is what it is. Everybody's busy. So that was the recommendation. I don't know if you all had the job description, you approved it, so
yeah. I-
do you have a question?
This mean we put it out?
Well,
I'm
if you
just
agree.
curious, normally we see the This-
Scores?
Yeah.
You wanna see them?
Yeah.
Here they are. I mean, it's,
I mean,
Dan
the-
changed his before I even talked to him. So, but you and I both came in. I came in a little, 5 points high above us, I at a 7. He came in a little bit below, and then we
I
all
had-
agreed to 6.
I had 2. I had a 6
You did
and
have
a
a second
7.
option, yes. I have yours.
Is this something you could do, David? Do you think?
Yeah,
Do you
I-
have- I think it would be useful.
Yeah, don't show me the scores. Now I know what it is.
Oh,
Well, it's actually
Sorry.
different for different people.
no, it's different.
I know.
I submitted 2 options, so,
And we actually came up initially with 3 different levels.
Yeah, I'll give you mine tomorrow.
yeah. I think it would be helpful.
Okay.
And the reason why is because normally mine come out so high, so this time, I think I put this in my notes. I went low.
Well, don't tell me.
No, I'm not gonna tell you what I did.
What her
Spoiler
numbers
alert.
are.
But I'm just saying, normally I'm very confident, and I still am, but I just like seeing everybody else's.
So
And I
we
came out-
holding on posting the,
I can't post it until you come up with one, so it'll be next week.
okay, next meeting, okay, great. All right. Let's see, I have a resignation from Michael Bird, March 9th, 2025. Dear Select Board, this letter is to announce my resignation as a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I have informed other members of the board prior to this date. It has been an honor to serve the Zoning Board of Appeals for the last few years, but unfortunately, due to other conflicts, I cannot continue to serve. I'm grateful to have had this opportunity. Sincerely yours, Michael Bird. So I move that we regretfully accept Michael's resignation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Bummer.
All right.
Thank you, Michael.
And we have a seasonal event permit application from the Northfield Golf Course.
If we look at number H,
Oh,
it's about the sound, which is always the, issue over there. So it says soundboards in place. Is that for all performances? Decibel meter to check noise frequencies, but we don't have any location for the checking or the frequency that's allowed. And no bass speakers for DJs, but there's also live music. So the bass speakers is the huge deal because bass frequencies travel a lot further. So I would like for that to be amended to say for DJs or live music.
That would be a condition you'd have to put on the permit. Where you sign it, you can put conditions.
we had
for
this
comment.
discussion last year with
Yeah, I wish she was
Shelley.
here.
Yeah, we had this discussion
We don't
with her.
require the renewal, especially since it's like our 3rd year renewing it.
No, I know. And but specifically, we had a discussion about noise and speakers and.
And they've done a really,
Yeah, we haven't received
they've done a
anything.
really good job the last
So
couple
what
of
was
years,
the, what was
but-
the condition we're adding?
It says no bass speakers for DJs, and I would say for any performance, DJs or live music.
No bass speakers for DJs
Or just for any performance,
and add,
or live
add
music.
for any performance.
Yeah. The bass speakers are the things that make the biggest difference.
Yeah, but they're not using them,
Mhm.
right?
No, I mean, there were a couple of times that they were used, but they've made a huge, just a huge improvement from the first time, so much better.
Okay.
We're grateful for that. It's good neighbor behavior.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
It's one of the few successful businesses in town, so I just want to make sure that we're.
So I'll motion that we pass a seasonal event permit for the Northfield Golf Course, name it Shelby Hassan Bassett, with one edit where it says no bass speakers for DJs, add or for any performances.
Second.
Any further discussion? And for me to sign and approve this permit. Second?
Yeah, I second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I gotta write that down. Is that okay?
Yep.
It's stated no bass speakers for DJs, and I put add or for any performances.
Yes.
Okay? Good, we're good there. We don't have any citizens' concerns here. No topics, announcements. We have a couple recognitions for services. Condolences to the family of Lloyd Perrell at his passing. Lloyd served on the Dickinson Library Board of Trustees since 2008. Also had, Heath, did you want to mention about David Quinn Jr.?
Yeah, that'd be great. Our condolences from the select board to the family of David Quinn Jr. David served this town in many ways. 54 years in the fire department, 30 years as assistant chief. Served on the Conservation Commission from 1999 to 2009 and the Emergency Services Facility Committee. David really was like a cornerstone of this community. He was a lifelong resident of Northfield and was an outstanding man as far as a business owner and a contributor to this town. Hard pressed to find anybody since I've moved here that's done so many things and knew so many people. And you know, I even didn't see eye to eye with David on certain things and had a lot of healthy debates with him, but he was always very passionate about his standpoints because he just wanted what was best for this town. And just an outstanding guy. Went to the services last night and today and just served this community in so many different ways, whether it was just at the hardware store with his, the multiple businesses he owned, with the funeral home, being a friend, a father, grandfather, welcoming families into his home, mine own included. He's just going to be a huge presence that's going to be greatly missed in this town, and he'll never be forgotten, I'll say that much. And may he rest in peace, and huge thanks to him for the many years of service and all the things he did for this town.
David, anything to add? Or?
Yeah, I would like to add, I was just talking to Michael, it feels like it was last week, we were talking about his grandfather passing away and how much time his dad was spending with him as his father was passing on. And I realized David was one of these guys, after I saw that he had passed away, a life short, because it feels like I just talked with him, but in a town full of characters, David was the first character I met. I think I was here 2 weeks. I went over there to buy paint, and I guess to tie in what you said, had some differing opinions with him, but always a smile to walk through that door when he was in the store. Just a great conversationalist, told me a lot about the history of the town because he was a lifelong resident, had done so much stuff, but just really made me feel very welcome. And I cannot imagine the grief that his family and his wife is going through, so he will be greatly missed, I am sure, by me, as well as a lot of other folks in the town, so rest in peace.
All right.
And all the community, all the local communities, firefighters and EMS and police came both to the wake or the viewing and the funeral today. So
I had a similar experience when I moved here almost 12 years ago, is that most of my introduction to Northfield was through Kidders, and at the time they weren't in the new building, they were back in the old building. And his stories, and again, there were certain things we didn't agree on, but that was understood. But his stories, and I was telling people in line, because we waited and everybody was waiting in line for so long last night to get in, that people were able to exchange stories, which was really nice, and reminisce. And the story that I tell is that when my dad died, my mom and I went to do funeral arrangements with, well, both Mike and David were a big help, but we did the funeral arrangements and filling out all the forms and all of that with David. And I don't know how this happened, but through the stories he was telling, he made me and my mother laugh so hard. And we were sitting there at the most painful, confusing time of our lives. And here we are, like, chuckling along with Dave. And just the fact that he would crack himself up and have that little giggle / chuckle that would get you and his audience going, because we always felt like we were sitting in the presence of a great storyteller. So I'm going to miss that laugh, and knowing that when something really bad happens in your family, that they were there for you.
And that smile.
Yeah.
That
Yeah, I
smile.
love seeing all the pictures last night. That was nice.
All righty. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That was a lot.